You spend time with your family? Because a man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man.
Well, don't look at me like I'm frickin' Frankenstein. Give your father a hug.
You ain't gonna believe this. But you used to fit right here. I'd hold you up and say to your mother, this kid's gonna be the best kid in the world.
Dad! Oh, Dad! Oh, Dad! Ah! Oh my God! Listen to that sweet, sweet sound.
We're back.
Woohoo!
It's been 3 months that we've been away.
Holy shit!
So much has changed, and yet so much is the same.
So much is the same. But yeah. Hi, friend. Oh my God.
It's great to be doing the podcast again. And especially with today's episode, because we've been thinking about it for like about a year. Ever since my wife got pregnant, and I was like
9 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 9 months plus my son is now 3 months old. So
True.
A year, basically.
True.
So yeah.
Yeah. For those way late on the uptake or forgot for some dumb reason, Mr. Lawler is a dad now.
Yeah. I have these sweet cigars that have a glare on them that I will pass out to you if you catch me on the street. I get to be a dad now.
That's true. He is. Jake did send me a cigar. I definitely smoked that a while back. I think I smoked that when you let me know that the little dude arrived.
Yeah, that's the way you should do it.
I got home from work, lit that puppy up.
Nice. Yeah, that's the way to go. It's a big dad move. Big dad energy.
Yeah. So before we get into today's very obvious topic, people, come on. Hey, how does it feel to be a dad, man? Welcome to the
feels
club. Like
very different than I thought it would, honestly. I don't know that anything prepared me for that feeling. Like I've never loved anybody so instantly and so much. And it's a very unique experience that I encourage other people to get into because it was awesome. And it still is awesome.
Yes.
Every single day is different and it's already going too fast. And I'm like very conscious of enjoying it while it lasts because it's going to be so short.
Yeah. I fucking love parenthood. I love being a dad. Folks, we should probably give you fair warning. This episode will be loaded with a ton of sappy shit.
Yeah. I'm going to try not to cry. It's also probably going to be our most toxically masculine episode ever. I mean, I've got beer, I've got a mustache, I've got a cigar, I've got everything you could ever want.
It's true. I don't have all that. I've got my beer, but I am surrounded by stuff that reminds me of my daughter. So I have a lot of sentimental shit all over, and yeah, this will be an interesting one, folks.
Yeah,
we got some fun surprises coming up.
Obviously,
we're not going to tell you quite yet, but we got a few things
coming up. An extra special episode for sure, full of dadness, dad celebrations. But before we get too far away from it, you know what we do. What beer are you drinking today as you burp into the microphone?
So, guys, it's been a while since I have gone to the liquor store to pick up beer because I just don't drink a lot unless we're like on the show. That sounds bad. I don't even drink a lot of I have my beer with the show.
Good save.
Wow. It's been a minute. It's almost like I forgot how to do this.
It's like riding a bicycle.
I went to the store today and was like, it's got to be super easy to find a beer that has some kind of dad theme to it. I mean, I have had a couple, I'm pretty sure, on the show.
Yeah.
Couldn't find them. Couldn't find anything dad related. And then I was like, oh, wait, I've got a beer. I was like, I'm pretty sure I've got like some kind of like Big Jake beer or something. And I was like, oh, I'll just drink that and toast Jake because he's a dad now. That'd be awesome.
There you go.
I don't have a beer by any kind of name of Jake at all. So today's beer, unfortunately for me, is not on topic, but I've been craving amber ales and I really like St. Arnold, so I'm drinking their original amber ale.
Okay.
I like ambers. It's good stuff, man.
Yeah. All right.
I let you down right there. Sorry.
I was a little disappointed, but it's fine. I was gonna go with the obvious, not your father's root beer. That's like pretty obvious, but it's a little too sweet for me. I'm old and grizzled and bitter now, so I went with my forefathers.
Says the guy that drinks sour beers.
Shut the fuck up. I like them juicy. I went with our forefathers Norse ale from Max Line Brewing in Fort Collins, Colorado, and it's pretty good.
You went with our forefathers and then went with the Norse.
My forefathers. I don't know about you, but
all right, fair enough. Fair enough. I like it, sir. Is it good?
It is very good. Yes, I think it's new.
Right.
I've never seen it before. It's a Pilsner inspired Kveik ale. Kveik. Kveik ale. Pilsner inspired. It's good.
There you go.
Okay, so we have a lot of things to get through. First of all,
bear with us, folks. This is a lot.
First of all, some announcements, housekeeping stuff. We are back, obviously. We're going to a new schedule, though. We're doing every 2 weeks instead of every 1 week. Hopefully that will give us more time to prep for episodes, more time to polish them, increase production value for you, the viewer, to enjoy. And also, I have a baby, so I'm doing diaper stuff.
I was going to say, let's be real. Let's be very real and honest. All that is like potential. The real reason is taking care of a newborn is more than a full-time job. So Jake needs a little extra.
Yeah. I can't be watching 50 movies a week like I used to. I'm too old for that shit. So new schedule, number one. Number two, new merch is coming. We do still have the merch store. You can access it on the website, on the link in the bio, all that good stuff. It'll be up for another 4 weeks from the time this drops. But there are new things coming, and we're very excited about them. So get them in the next 4 weeks. Otherwise, they will be gone forever, never coming back.
So get your shit because it's cool.
I think it's cool.
I wear my Movie Bonerz t-shirt, but it's over there in the washing machine and can't wear it.
Yep. Okay. And then I've been trying to stay up on the movie draft. If you recall,
I think you've been doing a killer job on that, man.
Thank you.
I'm not going to lie. I kind of ignored it for a couple of weeks there, primarily because I wasn't gaining anything. And that was kind of discouraging because you have a certain movie that I was like, it'll be big the first week or two, and then it's going to peter out because no one needs this.
You didn't think it would be bigger than
possibly be
bigger than any movie ever. It passed Titanic,
and it's huge, and it's still raking in all the money.
Yeah,
and it has no business being as good as it is, and that kind of pissed me off. But
we're of course talking about Top Gun Maverick. It is sincerely everybody I talk to freaking loves it. They say it's the best movie that they've seen in years.
It's so frustrating that it is good.
Yeah, way better than the original. I don't know what they did, but it is great, and I'm glad that we waited for it because it was delayed for freaking ever. But I'm glad it was worth the wait. And
it was worth it. It genuinely was worth it.
At an 8.6 still holding strong. It's the best movie of the year so far. The Batman was the second best movie of the year. Unfortunately, me having both of those does not save me because I'm still losing in the rating. I've been losing for a while. So I put these charts together based on our previous weekly check-ins.
Yeah, your rating, you might be a little behind in that rating, Jake. But unfortunately, I put two movies on there. One I didn't think was going to rate super high, but the other one I thought was going to rate higher. And both have been just blasted. Talking about Jurassic World, not Dominion, and talking about Thor.
Yeah. Well, Thor is at like Thor the Dark World levels, so yeah, not good at all. But Jurassic World Dominion is almost at $1 billion. It's a 5.7, but it's almost at $1 billion.
Yeah, it's that rating. And I had told you at the very start, like, I want to take the rating. Like, that's the one that I feel is the best one to go for. And with Jurassic World coming in at 5.8 or 9, whatever it was, that really hurt because I was on a pretty steady, like, damn. And then it was like, nope.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's true. Even though I took the 2 highest rated movies of the year so far, I've also had like 3 of the lowest rated or 5 of the 7 lowest rated movies. So it's not going great. I hope that I come back. We're running out of movies though for the rest of the year. I did notice weirdly, and I haven't posted yet, we both have had 4 movies pushed to next year.
Yep.
And so that's at least even, but I've learned a lot of things this year that I will do differently next year. First of all, don't choose 7 movies that don't have solid dates because 6 of them still don't.
Do a better job on that.
Yeah. Otherwise I did all right.
In terms of going for box office numbers, I think we both need to make sure we pick movies that actually release into the box office. To streaming.
I'm pretty sure you're the only one that did that, my friend. You have 2 movies that went to streaming and have almost no. One has 0 box office. One only has the India box office turning red.
Yeah,
and you also have like 3 others with like under 4 million. So I don't know what you're doing there, but you are currently winning in the total box office. You are currently winning, but I don't think Halloween Ends is going to do great. I don't think Black Panther will be as good as the first one or as high as the first one. So there's hope I can come back from this still.
I'm hoping that Black Panther just like rejuvenates the MCU's current phase. Although I didn't hate Thor. I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I think I enjoyed it more than I did Ragnarok. Watching it with my kid may have had something to do with that because I tend to watch or enjoy movies more when she's watching them with me. But I didn't hate it as much. It definitely, I mean, they should have given Bale way more screen time than he got, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, he's the only reason I was even slightly interested in that, and I still haven't gotten around to watching it.
Awesome. Not a surprise at all.
No, he is always awesome.
Now we're starting to, like, it's weird for movies now that August is here. So like the summer releases are kind of, this is where they peter out. They've done their run. We start getting to the couple fall movies that come out, like the couple big ones. And then you got to wait till November or Christmas Day before the last couple. So yeah, you and I are kind of like, uh-oh, because I think we both only have a few big titles left.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Avatar 2 on December 16th, and I'm looking at about 3 weekends of box office before the end of the year. It's going to be tight.
Yeah, it should be interesting. It should be fun, though. The next draft we do, I need to be better prepared. And I'm just going to keep my tongue, like hold my tongue on a couple movies, because clearly I was wrong.
You heard it here first, everybody. Dustin was wrong.
I was wrong. Who knew that Top Gun was going to be like the movie?
Yeah.
But moving on, because we got a lot.
We do have a lot. Let's continue on. I was going to check in. Is there anything that you've seen during the hiatus that you loved that you wanted to bring up? Or anything interesting that you saw recently that you...
So I have watched a lot of movies. Clearly I absolutely adored Top Gun. That movie had no business being that incredible, but it is.
Yeah.
Let's see here. When did we go on hiatus? We or took a little break. So The Northman, possibly my favorite of the year. I may have even enjoyed it equal to The Batman.
Wow.
The movie Everything Everywhere All at Once took me way by surprise. That movie hit me in a whole different level than I've been hit for a while by a film. That was pretty incredible, very original, and it was hilarious that that movie came out right at the same time as Doctor Strange, both dealing with multiverse stuff, and the non-comic booky movie handled multiverse so much better than that dog pile of Doctor Strange.
The dog film that I didn't expect to make almost $1 billion.
True.
I think people are excited about it, but yeah.
What else have I seen?
I mean, it's no Morbius, but that's fine.
We don't need to worry about that. I kind of forgot Morbius came out.
So did everybody else.
Nicolas Cage's movie this year, his big one, the Unbearable Weight.
Unbearable Weight.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I loved every moment of that movie. I thought the satire to it was perfect. I thought Nicolas Cage, you can't spoof Nicolas Cage unless you have Nicolas Cage doing it himself. You just can't.
Yeah.
It's just, that movie was
original.
Awesome. Had a lot more heart to it than I thought it was going to, which I think I loved it so much. Fuck, what else have I seen? I've seen a bunch. I just went and saw Where the Crawdads Sing. That was pretty cool. I enjoyed that.
Okay.
I can't remember what I've watched so many movies, and I was like, I probably should have wrote like all these down, and I didn't. So
that's fine. The Northman was good. I really liked The Northman as well. I was a little bit underwhelmed with the fight scenes. I felt like the choreography and everything was very stiff, and so it took me out of it a little bit. But otherwise, I liked it a lot. I just saw Men, which is Alex Garland's horror movie. He did Ex Machina, and I was very nervous that it would be super woke. It's still pretty woke, but it's also like leaves a lot of things unanswered and open-ended, so you could come up with a lot of different explanations. It was interesting. I liked it a good amount. I have an opinion or a theory about it that I haven't seen anybody else. I've been like reading all the what does the ending mean, all this stuff.
It's that kind of movie for you, huh?
Yeah, you're going to see some shit that you ain't never seen in any other movie in your entire life. But it was interesting. So I've seen a lot of really interesting and good explanations, but I haven't seen an explanation about this one thing that I have a very interesting, I feel, theory about. So maybe we'll tell you about it someday. But it's spoilery, so I can't bring it up right now. What else did I see? The Chippendale Rescue Rangers movie was really good. It was also a little woke and predictable, but it was really good.
That thing has popped up several times for me, and I'm always like, I can't believe they did that, and I'll skip it. But then in the back of my head, I get that little like, but you really like Berg? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. If there's anybody to like reminisce on 90s nostalgia cartoons, like the Rescue Rangers, the Lonely Island guys are the ones to do it. They did a good job with it. And there's really funny, like other jokes in it. There's a really funny Sonic joke in it that you'll appreciate. You should check it out.
Okay.
But that's the most important things that I've done recently, other than having a baby, obviously.
I was going to say, I mean, at least film watching, movie watching wise.
Yes.
Fuck,
yes.
I did watch other stuff, and I just can't remember what all I watched.
That's okay. You can bring it up next week.
Another episode. Let's see here. What other things do we have to bring up?
I think that's everything. We did the draft. We did the schedule.
Do you notice something on both of our backdrops that are pretty fucking killer that we got right before we went on our break? Bam! Yeah, that's pointing to it.
Totally. Yeah, I love that thing. It's like my favorite movie poster now.
Dude, so my daughter was home with me when it finally arrived. And when we looked at it together, she just started laughing. And she was like, this is hilarious.
What in the hell is this?
She was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's but speaking of our children.
There you go. Good segue. Yeah, so today is our top 10 movie dads list. And obviously, we're going to highlight dad characters in movies that we love a lot and why we love them a lot. And go through our top 10 list. And at least for me, I wanted to just highlight fatherhood and the benefits of it and the all of the different things that go into it. I don't want this I feel like it doesn't even need to be said, but I've read enough comments on the internet that I just want to throw it out there that this is nothing or in no way saying that fathers are more important or better than mothers. It's just everybody knows. Everybody loves mothers. Mothers are magical creatures who sacrifice every part of their body and life, and they're amazing, and we love them. But fathers are also a very important part of human beings being raised and being successful. And I think so many of the issues in society comes from fathers not being present and being taking care of their kids. So to that end, we wanted to highlight the benefits of good fathers and how we see them a lot as in our favorite medium, movies.
Jake knows this, so here comes your first little bit of real talk, ladies and gentlemen.
Going dad mode.
Being a father is, for me personally, it is like you hear people talk about life callings, all that kind of stuff. Truly, no joke, being a dad, it's like one of my first aspirations as a little kid was to be a father, and to actually be a father, to actually achieve the greatest of life aspirations and dreams is pretty incredible. You can't really describe it. But being a father, I'm pretty passionate about fatherhood. And like Jake said, we're not taking anything away from mothers. Our moms kick so much ass. All the moms we know are incredible. I have just the highest amount of like love and respect for all of them. Our idea of celebrating fatherhood, though, really comes from a place of fathers kind of get like pushed aside. Well, maybe that's wrong. Taken for granted is how I would put it.
Yeah. I think there's an it's not underappreciation, like I'm looking for more appreciation. Obviously, I'm a brand new dad, so I don't really count. But dads everywhere, I feel like it's less known what a dad is or what a dad should be, and so there's less emphasis on fatherhood and on especially good dads and being grateful for good dads over missing dads or whatever, and how single mothers have to raise kids and stuff. So I totally agree with you.
We just really wanted to highlight fatherhood. I really wanted to push this, especially after I found out about you and Christy, especially for you, because I mean you're my dude. We're family basically. So I really wanted to celebrate you, and we celebrate the hell out of Christy. So when she listens to this, I can like try and be a punk to her right now, but I feel that would be wrong. So I'm not going to do it. Love Christy. And I love seeing all the stuff from you guys, hearing about how your little dude's doing, from her and all that. I think it's just incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, but fatherhood it's a very big passion thing for me, where I am so proud of, all the fuck ups I have in my life, even as a dad, which, hey, fellas, you're gonna fuck up, which is one thing I wish anyone would have told me and just been real about. Like, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. It happens.
Right.
But I love being a dad. I want to celebrate being a dad as often as possible. I know I drive friends, coworkers nuts with it all the time, because 99% of my life stories now revolve around my child. And trying to when that's your whole story arsenal, trying to tell a bunch of people who are not parents, we get it, man. You love your kid, but you don't get it until you have your own child. So to all you fathers out there, cheers. Proud of you. Go bust your ass. Be there for your kids, man. Fatherhood is a tough gig for several reasons. One of the biggest reasons for me, and from my perspective, is kind of a generational, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of not in a good way, but passing of the torch. Like, there's always been the stereotype with fathers to be not connected to their children, not to, dad is the working man. That's what dad does.
Right.
I'm very happy to see that's been getting chipped away pretty decently over the years, but there's still pieces of that mentality that are still present. And I think that's why, like what you were saying about, it's not necessarily an underappreciation, but I think that's why dads kind of get taken for granted, or just kind of like, oh, it's dad, you know, like.
Yeah. I do think that's a big part of it. There's just a historical thing, and the generations, that takes generations to change. I know my dad's dad was a lot more like just cut off emotionally from the family than my dad was, and then my dad is, I think, a little bit more than me, and so we just kind of like improve as we go, which is a good thing. But I also feel like in media and in culture, there's been a thing that I've seen since like the 80s and 90s where there's so many movies and shows where the dad is like just an idiot, like a fuck up guy character, like it doesn't have a lot of depth, he's just an idiot, or he's completely absent, or he's cheating on the mom or whatever. Like
Right.
there's not
like
a lot of
or something like that.
Yeah, there's not a lot of wholesome, present, caring fathers in media, and I think that's why we wanted to show at least a handful of really good ones.
I'm gonna tell you right now, like my list is 50%. Well, actually not even 50. I'm gonna tell you, my list is full of genuine, loving fathers. Some of them are funny, some of them are not.
Yeah.
But when I was
I'm right there with
this
you.
episode, even when we talked about it originally, and then finally watching the movies and kind of going through with it, I struggled so damn hard with this list. And I know I texted you yesterday. Like I still don't even know who my number one is. Don't worry, I know who my number one is. It's okay. But I got kind of critical with a couple of the father figures that I originally had on my list, or like thought, well, that's an obvious one. And then I went back and watched them, and I was like, you're not an obvious one on my list. I actually legit did it right before we logged on. It's like, I have time for one more review. I'm gonna check this guy out, because in my memory was like, he's awesome. This is a dad.
Right.
Rewatched it and was like, nope, I disagree with so much this dude does. I'm not for it. Can't have him on my list.
I wonder if it's the same one I had, because I definitely had one where I was like, he's a dad, definitely going on the list. And then more I thought about it, I was like, you're a dad, but you're not a very good dad. Like, you're cool, but you're not a very good dad.
And I'm also expecting our list to kind of have a decent amount of differences. I'm also wondering if one of us will have dads that the other one took off the list for those reasons, where we didn't feel they hit those check mark or those boxes. And I'm really curious to see what our reasonings, if that happens, are. Dude, I'm stoked for that. I have been.
I'm ready to argue for mine, because I believe they are very good dads overall.
But that'll be the fun thing. I don't think we'll have to argue. I think. I think once we give our case for why we have these dads on our list, I think just having that added perspective will help, and just see where we're coming from. I know I've got one that you're going to be like, wait a minute. And I'm like, hold up.
Yeah. Okay. Also, the last thing to say before we get started is the special guests we have this week. Obviously, we are fathers and we want to celebrate fathers, but we're not just celebrating ourselves. That would be weird. We contacted several fathers, including our own fathers, and asked for their favorite movie dad characters. And so they all called into the show. So both our dads called in, and we each had a friend call. So 4 different voicemails came in for this. We're very excited to share those. We'll split them up kind of throughout the show.
I don't know if Jake's listened to them yet. I have not. I didn't want to listen to my dad's yet. He texted me his list of like the movies, but I'm really curious to hear what he has to say on his voicemail. So, but yeah,
I listened to it just so that I knew I could play it and it would sound good. And your dad's is funny. I can't wait to get to it.
I am so happy we got our dads on the show. We're celebrating them. So welcome to the show, dads. Hey. Hey. Yeah, we got a couple that chimed in too. I'm stoked. Let's do this. Let's celebrate dad.
Okay. So I think I'll go first as the newly crowned
Yes,
dad
sir.
here.
Do it.
My number 10 favorite movie dad, who is a lot like myself, where the nice thing about becoming a parent, I have learned, even though you don't have any idea what you're doing, your baby is also a baby. So when your baby's a baby, you're kind of a baby as a parent, and you both kind of learn together. And so that is a lot like my first character. I identify with this guy a lot more than I thought I would. So my number 10 favorite movie dad is Ben Stone from Knocked Up.
Oh my God.
It is, in addition to being one of the funniest movies of all time, I feel like Ben's transformation from a single dude, he's essentially a man-child, into a responsible father through the course of the movie is perfectly represented and very honest. Judd Apatow always does that very well. But he starts out as this like crass, poor stoner and with no ambition and just hangs out with his friends all day. I didn't do any of that, but I was, very lazy and selfish, and I didn't have anything to do. Why would I care about doing anything? And then he meets this girl and knocks her up, as the title implies. And he has to choose to become a father and become responsible and take care of his kid, or choose things for his kid that are things he wouldn't have chose for himself. And so I really like how that's represented. I also really like, my favorite scene is when she goes to her mom and like tells her she's pregnant, and her mom's like very judgmental, and she says she should get a schmishmortion. And then Ben talks to his dad, and his dad is like all about it. He's like so excited. It's a miracle. He can't wait. And just that dynamic of encouraging his son to be a father is really cool. So it's the funniest movie ever, but it's also, like all of Judd Apatow's stuff, very sincere and true, and on the fatherhood angle especially.
Oh my God. I think that's so funny you brought up Knocked Up. It's not on my list. Okay. But I had juggled putting Paul Rudd's character on my list.
Yeah.
He's not, but I juggled him for a little bit. I think what you said about how Apatow's writing and Rogen's acting of just going from man-child to learning kind of the first steps of actual responsibility and kind of taking accountability by the end. Like I love how they show that progress, and I love that they show him still tripping up and still maintaining pieces of that man-child kind of mentality. Yeah. But learning more from it, being able to start stepping away from all of that. I really appreciate that. That's such an interesting pick, Jake. So
it's one of the things I didn't really expect from being a father, is how it just like forces you to grow up, and it's kind of, might sound like a bad thing to a lot of people, but it's really not. Like I'm just constantly just doing things that need to get done, whereas before I would just like, fuck it, who cares? It's awesome.
It is amazing. That's why, well, I have something to say a little bit, quite a ways later in the episode, but God, that's such a...
Save your advice for the end.
I'm going to have to, I want to rewatch Knocked Up now, just because I love that movie. I absolutely love it.
Oh, it's the best.
All right. Well, my number 10 actually does not have a big role. In fact, I realized that with a handful of my list, where they're not in the movie very much, but the scenes they are in, they are the grounding moments. They are the grounding kit, whether it's super simple and just kind of common sense to them, or they actually have very wise words to share. But I was like, I thought that was interesting that the fathers on my list kind of hit me, and when I rewatched them, they all still stuck with me so much, and I understood why I gravitated towards them. And so this one, I have always just like, before I became a dad, actually this movie came out the year before my daughter was born. So yeah, it's still before I was a dad. And even the dad in this movie, I mean, the movie's awesome, but the dad just always, like, he left me with that impression of, I hope as my child, if I ever, if I ever become a dad, I hope I can kind of face certain moments, obstacles, the way he does, the way he handles a couple of the moments in the film. And it just I watched it like 3 times in the last 2 weeks, once with my daughter and twice just to be like, yeah, this dad does it for me. So my number 10 is
Does it for you, huh?
Yeah. That was weird.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So much for a sentimental episode.
All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
I don't even know how to segue from that. Well, show's over, folks.
Your number 10 is?
My number 10, his character's name is Earl Cavender, and he is from the movie Whip It.
Okay, yeah.
He's in the movie like 4-5 scenes, and he's got the few big scenes with him. What he has to say just really, like, to me, it just kind of humbles. Like it's very humbling. It's very real. It feels genuine. And Daniel Stern plays the dad, and he does it so well. And it kind of helps that the movie takes place in Austin, which I had totally forgotten that detail. And
yeah.
It's like, hey, Austin doesn't look like that anymore, but I guess it may have in 2008. But he's got he has the 2 scenes that really hit me. One was he's talking to his daughter about why he doesn't step in and have arguments with the mom. And he has this whole explanation of you have to pick your battles. You just have to, with some people, you just got to let them run their course, and you just got to be chilled, right?
Yeah.
Do your thing, whatever. And then his other one is after they discover the whole roller derby thing. When he goes online and starts looking up his own daughter and what she's accomplishing, and watching videos on her, and then his whole conversation with his wife about her, it hits home. And it's one of those things where as a dad, you're like, yeah, I'm willing to put aside something that could be financially uncertain. It could hurt, it could have a bad run, or it could end abruptly. It doesn't have longevity. But it's okay to set those things aside as long as your kid is kind of getting to know themselves and finding and creating their own happiness, really. And that's a huge piece of fatherhood for me, is just making sure my child is getting to know herself, and she's getting to know what risk to take, or choosing what risk to take. I think that's awesome. So
yeah, you always want the best thing for them, whatever that is.
You really do. And sometimes you got to set aside your own notion of what you think they need and all that. So Earl Cavender from Whip It, he just, like I say, he's got 4 or 5 scenes, but I get so happy when I watch that movie, because I'm like, oh, the dad's coming up. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome. So yeah, I like that a lot. I love Daniel Stern a lot too. So yeah, that's a good pick. My number 9 is not fun at all. It is probably the most sad and depressing movie on my list, but such a powerful dad and dad movie. So I went with Man from the Road. Yeah. And this movie reminds me that if he can be a good father in absolutely the worst situation imaginable, I can get through being a little tired or a little grumpy or a little hungry and be a good dad in even the worst situations. So he's very inspirational, but damn, that movie is so sad and so harsh. But
that movie is. So I read the book.
Yeah, me too. It's the only Cormac McCarthy book I've ever read.
Yeah. So that book, I'll tell you what, folks, if you've only ever seen the movie The Road and you were like, man, nothing can be more heartbreaking than the movie, go read the book.
Yeah. They toned it down for the.
They toned it down. They really they made it okay. But it's still, that's a rough one, man. Yeah. I thought of him immediately too. And in that same thought, I was like, nope. It was primarily because honestly, the only reason I did not put him on my list, I was like, I just don't want to rewatch The Road.
It's one of those movies for you. You have those one and done movies that
like I own it. It's over there.
Yeah. You gotta be in the right mindset, though.
Couldn't tell you the last time I watched it. Like I'll have moments where I'm like, ooh, that movie's so well done, it's so well filmed, and like characters are so well done or like fleshed out. I'm not watching that one. We're gonna go with something else.
Yeah, that's fair. It is really, really dark. I mean, it's apocalyptic. The world is dying. The animals are gone. There's cannibals everywhere, and they're just kind of just trying to survive for no real reason. But I love it because he's still a dad. He's still taking care of his kid, and he's also still trying to teach him lessons. Like he's teaching him about the heroes and old stories, and that you can still be one of the good guys, and there are still good guys out there. You need to watch out for bad guys, but there's still goodness, and you can be the hero. You can be the hero to the story if you want to. And so he talks about his son carrying the fire inside of him, and it inspires his son to do that. The story is the most extreme version of reality, and I think that's why I love it, which is that it's every father's job to and in their goal really to prepare your kids for the world and for them to be able to take care of themselves after their fathers are gone. Like there's going to come a point where you can't take care of your kids anymore, and you need them to be able to take care of themselves. Obviously, in this situation, it's survival, and they're running from cannibals, and the father is dying, and all of this stuff. But so yeah, he has the hardest possible road, no pun intended. But the goals and results are the same as every father's, I think, and he does a really good job of it.
Yeah,
as good a job as he can do in the circumstances.
I mean, it's Viggo Mortensen, just throwing down acting chops, like quiet acting chops, which I am. Man, I've got a couple dads on my list where they have like it's in that quiet moment or that look, and I'm sure you have the same kind of thing with a couple of yours where it's just like, ooh, there it is. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, you feel like the authority, but it's not a like kind of tyrannical authority. You feel just this like more of like a humbling authority where like the dad needs you to be better, not only as a person for yourself. Yeah. But for me, I've really approached fatherhood as I need to set my child up to be better than me, grow from what I've done, do better than what I've accomplished, like just be better. And that's, that's the whole goal. I have spent 35 years making mistakes. If they can and learn from those mistakes early on and not duplicate them, then they can go on and make new mistakes that I will never even make it to. So it's just like building on top of each other. It's crazy. Right. Yeah. Oh man, man, man is a good character. He's a very good character. He's a very intense character. Oh man. Way to come swinging, Jake. Yeah. Well, not to mention the fact that the woman, his wife and mother of his child, just leaves. Like she can't handle how difficult it is, which is understandable, but you have a child, and so you can't just leave. So she sucks, but man is awesome. It's the one time I will dog on moms this movie. No, she's episode. Like that character she's a bad character. She's a bad character. Wow. I have no good segue into my number 9. I would have a great segue if we are going to number 8, but that's just not the case. So now it's weird. All right. Well, my number 9 is funny and fun, and let's bring it back up. Bring the energy back up. time to boost it again. Boost it again. Yeah. Yeah. My number 9. This dad. If you grew up in the 90s, you know this dad. In fact, people quote this dad. Men tend to quote this dad primarily when they leave the restroom. Yeah. This guy is just Ace Ventura when I leave the restroom, but maybe that's just me. Well, this father-wise. This is the dude. This character, again, he's not like a huge role, but the
Mhm.
scenes he's in, one, he steals because he's ridiculous and hilarious.
Okay.
But where he's coming from and what the points that he makes are
Mhm.
so real, and they're so like, yeah, that's what your dad's gonna tell you. Your
Mhm.
dad is gonna spend a lot of time telling you, get your shit together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my number 9 is Mr. Jones from Friday.
Okay.
If you don't know the line that I'm quoting,
Yeah.
it's I wouldn't go in there for 45 minutes.
Oh man, that's a good one.
But this dad, and he's great in the franchise, but that
Yeah.
first one in particular is the one that drives home for me. One, he's hilarious, ragging on his kid. Like, you got to get a job. How you got fired on your day off is unreal, but you got to go get a job. You got to make better decisions.
Mhm.
And until you start making better decisions, I'm going to be on your ass. And he is, down to like the most ridiculous, hey, come back inside to my bedroom, go get me a glass of water with some ice. Like, he just trying to drive the point home to his son Craig.
Mhm.
Get your shit together, grow up.
Yeah.
But out of nowhere, he hits his son with the line that just has always stuck with me. And it's when he sees his son with a gun and he tells him, like, when I was growing up, we didn't need that.
Mhm.
And he puts his dukes up, right? And he says, this is all you need.
Mhm.
Like, you win some, you lose some, but you live to see another day. In the context of the film, he's talking about like just the potential gang violence that might happen in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But the reality of that scene is like, not necessarily, I mean, you gotta put your dukes up, and I don't have a son, but for my daughter, it's the same principle to me, just because
Yeah.
it's like, kid, you got to be able to fight.
Girls
Maybe
fight
not-
more than boys. I've
Right.
heard.
And I'm like, maybe not even like actual physical fighting, but
Yeah.
like, you need to learn how to, life is a punk.
Right.
And it's gonna hit you, it's gonna knock you down.
Really hard. You gotta be harder sometimes.
So Mr. Jones from Friday, he's hilarious,
Yeah.
but he has the way that they wrote him, the way that Ice Cube wrote him to be so funny and ridiculous, but have such a like very real. He's making very valid, very real points. I love that, and that dad
Yeah.
has always stuck with me. He's another one. Like, there are times I watch that movie solely just for the scenes with the dad, and then other times
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I just want to watch. Like, I want to watch Craig and Smokey on the porch. But so, Mr. Jones from Friday.
Okay. I love it. That's awesome. All right. My number 8 is, I guess the segue from that is he's another African-American father figure. Wow. That's the only thing they have in common. I'm
going with the messy dad poof. Look at this messy hair. It's getting hot with the hat. I had to take the hat off.
That's fine. My number 8 is Roger Murtaugh from Lethal Weapon, the one and only. He tells them he just tries to be a sensible dad, and he's a really good dad to these like 3 kids. But he's also, as everybody knows, getting too old for this shit.
He's so old for this shit.
And my favorite part, like, obviously I love Lethal Weapon. I've loved Lethal Weapon forever. But seeing it from like a dad's perspective and watching it, you kind of get him differently. Like all of the scenes where he is, his oldest daughter is like a woman now. And he's kind of realizing that for the first time. And it's very difficult to grasp the fact that she's a person, an adult who's going to be dating boys and all that stuff. That's not easy to come up with. It also, when he goes to the girl that jumps off the building at the very beginning, she has a dad. And her dad is friends with Roger Murtaugh and calls him. And they have this like heart-to-heart conversation where it's like kind of dad to dad, and it's sad, honestly, where he's like begging Roger to investigate it. He's like, as a dad, you have a daughter. Imagine if she did coke and porn and jumped off of a building and killed herself. Wouldn't you want that investigated? And so I don't know. It's just very powerful, and I've never really seen the movie from that perspective before.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been like the hard-boiled detective story and all that stuff. But there's a lot of family life scenes with him and his family and him and his kids, and his daughter gets kidnapped and he has to like go rescue her and all this stuff. It's very fatherhood centric, and I really, really like it.
Watching that movie from the perspective of a father, when he's holding the grenade and he says, if she's going to die, she's going to die my way, not yours.
Yeah.
So like, oh,
You believe him.
like being a dad changes
Mm-hmm.
your perspective, how you process, just it's so different. And Jake, you're still super new.
Yeah, I'm a baby.
I'm gonna tell you right now, man, as your kid gets older, that learning how to reprocess stuff
Mm-hmm.
is like, it gets more intense and it gets harder.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the point, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, dude, Murtaugh's such a good pick. And I'm not gonna lie, totally not a surprise that you would have Roger Murtaugh on your list. Not a surprise at all.
No, he's amazing.
He's awesome. He's awesome.
All right. Before you give your pick, I think
No,
we've gone through 5. Let's do one of our call-in answers. I've been trying to do them in I think order that I think will work well, because I have listened to them. I know which ones are on the list, and I don't want a lot of things spoiled.
Yeah,
so
don't spoil anything.
We're going to go to a call-in from my friend Brennan, longtime listener and supporter of the podcast, first-time caller. So let me pull this up.
I was about to be like, we're not a radio show, Jake, but podcasts are essentially radio shows. Welcome to the show, man.
I've got 3 picks for favorite movie dads. Number 3, Sam from Sleepless in Seattle. Number 2, Wayne from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Number 1, this might seem a little lame since this is a minor character, but I seriously idolized this guy growing up, and he's one of my favorite movie characters of all time. Miles Dyson from Terminator 2.
Terminator 2.
Holy shit.
I honestly forgot he was a dad, Miles Dyson specifically.
Oh my God.
I don't think of him like in that context, really. It's been a minute since I've seen Terminator 2. All I think of when I think of Miles Dyson is sitting there holding the thing going,
dude. So the one that that's a great pick.
Yeah.
Because it's to have your entire life's work and in just a few moments, and you're looking at your kid holding this arm
Mm-hmm.
and interacting with this machine and realizing I have made possibly the most royal of fuck ups a dad could possibly make. And to just instantly be like, okay, I have to erase my entire life's work. Everything I've ever gone for, I have to get rid of. That's incredible. The pick that just made me feel like, how the shit
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
did I not watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
Yeah. Rick Moranis was like the funniest dude when I was a kid.
Dude, and I just thought of another Rick Moranis character. Oh,
Little Giants.
Yep.
Little Giants is a great movie also. Mid-episode honorable mention. Check out Little Giants and Honey, I Shrunk.
And he's such a great dad. Yeah, he might be the most honorable, take the top spot for honorable. Oh my God. Dude, those are awesome picks. That was fantastic.
Good job, Brennan.
Thank you, sir, for calling in, letting us know. We appreciate it.
All right, now you can give your number 8.
All right. So my number 8, minor character for screen time, major character for lasting effects on the main character.
All right.
This is, I will tell you, people, this is the only nerdy one I've got. Originally, I had a few, but this is the only nerdy one I've got.
Okay.
Jake, you and I have brought this guy up several times before,
Mm-hmm.
and we've talked about his intensity just in the small screen time he has.
Yeah.
And how much, how impactful he is throughout the whole franchise. My number 8 is Jonathan Kent, specifically from Man of Steel.
Yep.
I was rewatching just like clips of him, not just the full movies, but clips of him.
Yeah.
And it's still, dude, this Jonathan Kent is like,
Yeah.
you are the man. You are the man.
Yeah.
He is so open and honest with Clark that it's heartbreaking, but it's like, it's so inspiring as a father to see this character raising his son, knowing his son has more potential than like literally everybody.
Yeah.
But the way he goes about parenting is still, it is so admirable. And I've actually modeled a little bit of my parenting style off of him, of the idea of, as a dad, you aren't looking at raising your child day by day. You are looking to the big picture.
Yeah.
How do I set my kid up for that shit that's like way down the line?
Yeah.
And you don't even know exactly what is down the line, but you know, like there's a lot there. And
Right.
this child needs to be prepared at as minimal, the most I can. And the lines he says, yeah, they're to a superhero alien boy of like, you're going to change the world, what you choose to do, whether it's for good or evil, like that's up to you. It's your choice to do this.
Yeah.
But that still works for all of us, all of our children in the real world of like, you ultimately have the full decision of what you do with your life. And as a parent, we just have to make sure you have an understanding of what your choices, like the consequences your choices can have.
Right. And choosing to do nothing is still a choice.
It's still a choice.
It's still an option, but there are also consequences.
Heavy consequences. And just preparing that bigger picture kind of mentality is, he's really like one of the only parental figures in movies, at least all the ones that I watched, that really approach parenting with that mentality of like, I need you to like be ready for when shit hits the fan when you're an adult. Because like what you just said earlier is, the parent might not be around to see a portion of it or a good portion, whatever. So got to make sure children are set. And Jonathan Kent just nails it out of the park. Even when like Superman has the vision of his dad on top of the mountain in BVS, like that's still the story he tells is so like, ooh, it's so heavy and just consequences. There's consequences to everything we're doing.
And the fact that his dad impacted his life that much, that even after his dad's gone, in his darkest hour, he thinks about what would his dad tell him. And his dad would tell him a story from his life when he was a kid and he fucked up. And here's what you should do different, basically.
Yeah. So I was like, originally I was just going to have him as an honorable mention.
Yeah.
And then I was rewatching stuff with him and I was like, no, this dude has to be on my list. Cause I respect this character so much. And I love what Kevin Costner did with the character and just the heart and the sincerity that he's got with it. It's just, that's a father figure to me.
Yeah. I took a gamble that he would be on your list. I definitely wanted him on my list, but I also wanted to fit a bunch of other stuff. And I was like, there's a pretty good chance Dustin will choose him. So I'm going to put him in my honorable mentions and hope that he does. And then I could talk about him on his.
Yep.
So thank you for not letting me down.
Yeah,
but I agree with everything you said. I think I didn't think about it from that perspective though. And I think there's an old saying or somebody said once that society grows great when men plant trees under the shade that they'll never sit in or something like that. And you could change that to dads planting seeds in their kids' lives that they'll never like see the benefits of. And that's totally true.
Yeah.
I also really like, obviously Man of Steel has a ton of Christ allegory type stuff in it.
Right.
And Superman's has two dads. He has Jor-El, who is essentially God, and Jonathan Kent, who's essentially Joseph, and raising this kid who's not really his, as if it's his own, and raising this kid who is godlike with godlike powers and stuff. trying to do the best he can as a mere mortal. Like, how do you raise that guy?
Like, how do you,
and he does
how do you
it.
discipline that kind of child? Like,
Yeah.
what do you do with that?
He does a really good job. And yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
All right. My number 7 favorite, where am I? There we are. Is actually one that Brendan brought up, and I was a little surprised. Not a lot of people, especially masculine dudes like us, are fans of this movie, but we obviously are because it's one of our favorite dads. Sam Baldwin from Sleepless in Seattle is my number 7. Obviously, super chick flick type movie, but I feel like most of Tom Hanks' characters could be great dads. He just has that thing about him where it's like, and I was trying to think about it, and he only has a couple that I could.
But
think
he
of.
never really actually plays a father.
Yeah, and so Sleepless in
he does
Seattle
a couple
is
times, but
Sleepless in Seattle is one of the best, and also I've noticed recently as my wife has been watching chick flicks, they're so sad. Quick aside, she was watching some movie, and every time I checked in on her on what was going on, it was like the saddest shit just happened. And like, what happened now? Why is she upset? She's like, oh, well, sure, her daughter tried to get, her daughter got molested and then she got beat up and all this stuff. I was like, what are you watching? Why do you enjoy this? It was about this movie about this girl that gets pregnant in like Walmart or something. Shout out to you.
Oh, I totally know what movie that is.
With Ashley Judd and
Natalie Portman, right?
Natalie Portman. Yeah. Something about a heart, where the heart grows. I don't know.
Something like that. Yeah.
So anyway, they're always sad. And Sleepless in Seattle opens at a funeral where this guy's wife just died. And now he has to not only get over that as an individual, but also he's a dad to this young kid, Jonah. And just how he balances that, he completely throws himself into work and fatherhood and completely denies everything else for himself, which is one way to do it. Not really a bad way to do it. But then over time, a couple of years later, he starts to like try to get back into dating and be okay with like doing stuff for him, even though his son isn't into it. And so just the way he balances that is kind of my favorite part, where it's obviously awkward for his son to like start thinking about having a new mom around and all this stuff. And their dynamic together and how they kind of like go through it together, father and son, is really cool. And I really like that part of the movie, especially.
Yeah, that's another one I just completely spaced. And what sucks more about that was I even thought, what Tom Hanks father movies would I put on my list? I have one as an honorable mention, but I like it just like, but that whole movie is him and his son. The whole movie is his son end up like kind of having to take the reins to be like, Dad, you gotta like, you gotta do something for you. You gotta.
Yeah. When they're like brushing their teeth together and he's talking about going on the date with this girl, and his son's like, is she gonna scratch up your back? And he's like, what are you talking about? It's like when people have sex on TV, the girl scratches up the back.
Scratch the backs.
It's like, how do you know this? Jets has cable. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. It's funny. So yeah, Sleepless in Seattle.
That's a great pick, man. That is a fantastic pick. I'm going with super silly. This is the one I could see you kind of being like, he's kind of a pig sometimes. He's not like that great of a guy.
Okay.
But hear my argument.
I'm ready.
So I'm not even going to segue it. I'm just telling you. My number 7 is Clark Griswold.
Yeah.
From National Lampoon, the Vacation franchise. Yeah, he has moments where he's a real piece of shit. Like almost cheating on his wife and never knowing where his son is, even though Santa's standing right by him. But
or never noticing that his kids are always different in every movie.
That's just Hollywood, man. That's just Hollywood.
It's canon.
But Clark Griswold, as mistake riddled as that character is, the bottom line that comes to this character, and they really emphasize it in Christmas Vacation, like,
Yeah.
you finally get where he comes from with everything is family.
Yeah.
Solely 100% his goal is to create great family memories
Mhm.
for his children to take wherever they go. You know, when they grow up, he constantly wants them to experience something good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of mistakes. Yeah, there's a lot of, like, you know, dragging the dog behind the car. Like,
Yeah.
that's a bad part. But Clark Griswold as really it boils down to Christmas Vacation for me, because
Mhm.
to me that's the culmination of this family. And yeah, there
Mhm.
were a couple more movies that came afterwards, and I have nothing against them, but Christmas Vacation really is what drives it home for me.
The most
Of
perfect
this-
version of
It
of
really
what
is. I mean,
happens.
he has invested so much in making sure his family are given, you know, extravagant things, whether it's a
Mhm.
giant family gathering Christmas or a swimming pool,
Mhm.
giant vacations cross country. He's so invested in this idea of, I don't really care about me as long as my family has like all this stuff. And I think that's so awesome, because as a parent, you really end up coming to that point. At least most of us
Mhm.
come to that point where you're like, I think it's okay that I'm like, you put yourself aside, and the kid takes all. And I just think Clark Griswold really kind of emphasizes this, and he or like embodies that kind of mentality. I love Clark Griswold. I think he's hilarious. And even his frustrated moments where he gets so mad and he finally loses it and has to scream and shout. And, you know, I wouldn't recommend chugging eggnog like he does, because that'll
Yeah.
make you sick. But then, even in that moment, his own dad sits down with him and tells him, like, you thought I had it all under the control.
Right.
I didn't. And for me as a dad, that's such a like moment where
Mhm.
you're thinking, did my dad, like, did he actually know everything? Did he actually have everything under control? And then you can
Yeah.
talk to your father. And spoiler, folks,
Mhm.
9 out of 10 times your parents are going to be like, we had no clue
Yeah.
what we were doing raising you.
Yeah, it's true. That's probably one of my favorite parts about it. I'm not gonna say too much because it is on my list as well, obviously. So
Yes.
I can't argue with you, because I definitely obviously agree with you.
Yes.
But yeah, the fact that he's constantly making all those mistakes, but he's also trying to like pass it off as if he meant to do that. He's just and your kids expect you to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so he's trying his hardest to appear like he knows what he's doing and has that confidence. And it's hilarious in the movies. But I think there's also a big part of that where it's like, when you're a kid, you don't realize your parents have no idea what they're doing until you become adult, and you're like, you talk to them and you're like, we're peers now, and we both had no idea what we're doing still. And it's just the weirdest thing.
Yeah, because you approach them with that idea of like, can I cheat off of your test? Can you just give me the answers? And they go, we don't have the answers for you.
Yeah.
Like, here's what we did. You can go
Mhm.
from there. And you're
Yeah.
like, uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear we have our first crossover on our like getting back into that. That's so awesome. Go us.
Mine's a little farther up. My
Yeah,
next one is not funny at all. So,
dude, why do you keep doing this?
bringing
Stop
it back
doing-
down? But it's a great movie with the great Denzel Washington. My number 6 is John Quincy Archibald from John Q. So sad. His son, who this movie starts out and it's just like a cute family movie. The wife and father, obviously they're having money issues, but he's looking for a second job. It's going to be okay. and they're at their kid's Little League game, and he just collapses. And it's just the saddest thing. And his dad rushes out to him, and he has this like heart condition where it's like rare and it sucks, and it's going to be like $250,000 to get it fixed, and his insurance doesn't really cover any of it. And so he exhausts every possible thing he can do. He just can't get enough money. And so he goes to the ultimate breaking point and needs to save his son and needs to get his son on a donor list. And essentially it becomes a heist movie where he's trying to hold the hospital up to get his son on the donor list. And it's an incredible movie, especially when like they're trying to like stop him. And Robert Duvall is like the detective, and he's like, I'm a dad of like 3 boys and 2 girls or something like that. And they're like trying to have this rapport. And then they like send in the SWAT team, and they don't get him, and he gets away, and it's great. But he's like, I'm not burying my son. My son's going to bury me. And he's just so like completely committed to saving his son's life by any means necessary. And it's amazing. It's an amazing movie. Not a very fun movie, but very amazing movie.
Again, I thought, I'll watch John Q because that's a great movie. And it's all about lengths of a parent will do for their child, or a dad will, what lengths will the father go through? I like loaded it up, and then like the ending flashed in my head. Yeah. And I was like, not today.
Not this time.
I was like, I don't know. I was in such a like happy spirit. Not all of my dads on my list are like funny folks. I've got a couple coming up that okay. They kind of go through it a little bit. But yeah, Denzel Washington is always a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
And watching those scenes where he is just losing it, like the conversations with Duvall, watching just his initial decision to hijack hold the hospital hostage to try and do this, like, that's such an intense story.
And he's a great hero, an unexpected hero, because there are so many points where you could say, oh, you're a dick. Like, you are affecting all of these other people's lives, and you're being very selfish to try to save your kid. But he does enough to try to help them. Like, even though he's holding up the hospital, he still like tries to let them operate on the people they need to operate, and tries to give people directions to other hospitals. He does enough to keep himself likable and not like make the audience turn against him, which is always important.
The audience, you don't turn against him. One, you get where he's coming from.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. They do enough where you stay with him, where you're like, he's got a little bit of a grasp on.
Yeah, he's a good guy, but he's just out of options.
Yeah,
and he refuses to accept that his son is going to die in the next couple of days.
Yeah,
which is understandable.
I get.
Yep, absolutely.
I've told my daughter, man, if anything ever happened to you, scorched earth.
Yeah,
like, that's it. Yeah, it's amazing how intense that kind of like, you don't even want to think of that scenario. And John Q is so, I find myself, I'll watch movies where parents have to go through these situations where they're watching their children suffer, whether they get sick and are dying, and the parent has to have this understanding of like, you're probably going to be the one burying your kid. I have a hard time with those, like, not to a point where I'll completely refuse. I didn't watch John Q. But it hits so differently now, because I really I think about parents in the real world who have faced this kind of stuff, and now they're watching a movie that's about it. Chances are they've made the decision not to actually see these films or watch these stories, which I get, can't hold anything against them. But I have found myself thinking about families that have actually gone through some of these scenarios,
Yeah.
and my brain is usually thinking like, "Ooh, did we need this story?" I'm like, it's usually a quick thought, but I have to chuckle to myself that I have that thought at all,
Yeah.
and it's solely because of my child. So, thanks, kid.
Yep. Yep. It's all her fault.
It is. Thanks for taking that blissful ignorance away from me. Well, my number 6 is genuinely a good mixture of he does some silly things, but he's not like a very funny character.
Okay.
Now I've talked about this guy a couple times. I just talked about this full movie in one of our episodes, and I want to say it was our like what did we call it? Our comfort movies.
Yeah.
So my number, what number are we on?
6.
6. Is the character Matt King from The Descendants.
Oh, yeah.
I love George Clooney in this film, and I love how he approaches playing this dad who the whole situation, the whole story is actually really it's not a funny story. He does some silly things with his daughters throughout the course of the movie, but he's this dad whose wife is about to pass away, to be taken off of life support. He has this entire trust thing where he's been given the sole say in owning this giant piece of Hawaii that the whole family wants him to sell, but he's having kind of reservations about it because there's deep meaning to it.
Yeah.
And then he's trying to figure out how to stay connected and honest and open with his youngest daughter, and then find a connection with his oldest daughter, who is kind of rebelling. She's getting into drinking and partying, has that teenage attitude and all that. He's trying to deal with so much all at the exact same time. And he has to maintain a calm.
Yeah.
He has to, it's a different kind of strength where his grieving process, he puts on hold simply so that he can just get his daughters primarily through this moment in time. And then he can have his own moment. But just the quietness, just the way that he's trying to figure out how to reconnect or stay connected is so real. And to me, it hits hard because my child is hitting that age, that teenage years, and I can already hear all the voices out there going like, oh,
yeah,
I get it. And so when I watch The Descendants, I feel a deeper connection with this character because he's so desperate to figure out, like, what do I do now? How do I connect with you now that you're doing this, now that you're getting older? And there's so much unsaid in that movie that I think is awesome. But the part that really cements it is just the final shot of the movie. It's that shot where, like, as a parent, you see it and you think, I need that.
Yeah.
That moment. That's what I think every parent kind of ultimately wants. And I don't really want to say it because it might ruin the whole film if you haven't watched it. It's not really spoilery, but I don't know. I feel weird telling you.
It's cathartic to experience it. Yeah.
And it's just, I love Matt King as a dad and just what he has to go through and how he approaches it. I think I have a respect for what they did with that character. So Matt King from The Descendants, plus I'm obsessed with that movie. So
yeah, it's a wicked good movie. And especially on the father of daughters side of things. He is I don't know who I was trying to say. George Clooney does a great job in that movie.
He does. He really does.
I was gonna say Tom Clancy. I don't know if it was
Tom Clancy. He's not
Tom Hanks and George Clooney, and I got really confused.
Damn.
All right. Well, let's go to the radio lines again, call-in lines. I'm losing it. I'm falling apart. I need to
Cue
play
some silly segment alert. Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun.
some technical difficulties. Jake's mouth doesn't work anymore. Sounds. Let's go to another longtime listener, longtime friend, John.
Yep.
He has a message for us.
Hey, Boners, this is John. Here's my top 10 list of movie dads. Number 10, we've got John McClane from Die Hard. Number 9, Professor Henry Jones, Indiana Jones's dad.
Hell yeah.
Number 8 is Darth Vader from Star Wars.
Whoa, bud.
7, Chris Gardner from The Pursuit of Happiness, the dad in that movie.
Whew.
Number
Oh,
6, Robin Williams and Mrs. Doubtfire, Daniel Hillard in that movie. Number 5, I've got Marlon from Finding Nemo. Number 4, the dad in Taken, played by Liam Neeson, because,
Yeah.
Number 3, Bob Parr from The Incredibles. Number 2, Gru from Despicable Me. My number 1 movie dad is Rick Mitchell from Mitchell versus the Machines. Hope you guys like the list. Love the podcast. Talk to you guys later.
What the fuck is Mitchell versus the Machine?
Okay, so everyone, I have heard about this movie. My daughter has talked about it. It's like one of the highest rated films like ever.
Okay.
It's this animated film of this family. I have no clue what it's about. I haven't watched it yet, but everyone has told me you gotta see this movie. It's incredible. Haven't watched it yet, but I feel like I have to. I really think I need to just buckle down and watch this. If John's putting it at number 1, it's got to be pretty like damn.
I would say it's got to be pretty good. He does have a couple of crossovers with me coming up, but he has some interesting picks with Darth Vader.
John,
Darth
we're
Vader.
going to talk about Darth Vader for a second.
Let's talk about one of the worst dads of all time, shall we?
I am hoping he is referencing solely the final act of Vader.
He has a semi-acceptable redemption arc, but overall not great.
John, you're just picking Vader because he's a badass, aren't you?
He's pretty cool.
But that's a pretty
Also,
great list.
On the subject of badass dads, he mentioned the one that I was talking about earlier. Die Hard was on my list, and then I was like, actually, not a great dad. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he's more of a badass than a good dad. Taken, badass and good dad. Die Hard, badass, medium dad.
McClane, like, they just never have him really interact with his children.
Yeah.
But
And he
I know
doesn't
in like the later
seems-
sequels, it was him and his he actually did interact with his children solely in the movies.
Yeah, I stopped watching it after the third one, basically.
But interesting list, John.
I like they gave
it.
us
We dig it.
a full top 10 though. That took some dedication.
That was yeah. Proud of you, bud. Thanks for the list. Thanks for keep listening and all that. You're awesome. All that good stuff. Man, that was like the most radio sounding moment for us, but that's all good. It's all good, man.
You try hard.
Thank you, John.
So
That's a killer list, man.
My number 5 is a fun one. Don't worry.
Finally.
I actually don't know.
Finally, Jake throws a fun one in here.
I don't think I have. Okay, I have another sad one, but it's kind of hopeful, kind of good. Mostly positive now. No more super depressing ones. My number 5 is fun, but it's also another a kind of a unique side of fatherhood that isn't shown a lot, and I think is very specific to this event and also just culturally interesting. And I think it's done in a really good way. And it's also my personal favorite, Steve Martin. My number 5 is Father of the Bride.
Okay. We have a crossover on actor, not on movie.
Interesting. Yeah, George Banks in Father of the Bride is like one of the best. 1 and 2, I enjoy both of them very much. They tell very different stories, obviously. But there's something. So I love that. I love that when you're watching a movie about a dad and he's just enjoys being a dad. Like I can't think of that many movies that's like that. But Father of the Bride, he loves being a dad. He's so excited that his daughter's coming back from school, and then finds out this is the movie like you mentioned before where he's really struggling to see her as an adult who is like going to get married and start her own family and all this stuff. He still sees her as that little kid. And that I can't imagine yet. I'm going to learn the harsh reality in the future, but I can't imagine how hard that must be. I'm getting more of a perspective than I've ever had before. That was always kind of a weird thing that happened in stories that I didn't really get, but now I'm like kind of seeing it already. I feel like time is moving too fast, slow down. And so I think that's a big part of that. But I know for culturally, Father of the Bride is kind of interesting because obviously with weddings, there's a lot of like, your father is generally paying for it. Father of the bride is generally paying for it. Father of the bride is generally like giving her away. I know a lot of people don't like that. That some people feel like it's like the bride is property. I don't think of it that way. I think of it as a father, you and as a mother, you are responsible for this human being and keeping them alive and protecting them and teaching them and making them successful. And so to let go of that and to entrust this stranger you just met to be their partner and help them and care for them and all that stuff is a big deal. And it's not the easiest thing to do. And it's a really funny way that Steve Martin does it, but he also does it, I think, in a very honest way with his voiceover and everything. So I really enjoy this movie. And the second one as well, when he has to become a father again after kind of being done with it. It's great.
I love Father of the Bride. I'm with you, dude. I enjoy both. Obviously, I do enjoy the first one more.
Sure.
That second one has some great moments in it. And anytime Martin Short and Steve Martin share screen time, like it's gold.
Yeah.
To your point of seeing your child as a child, even after they're not really a child anymore.
Yeah.
Or at least grown out of that. So I know my mom and dad have both told me stuff about like, it's so weird when your child is no longer like stepping out of a child mentality, child, everything. They've talked about it with me. One day you were okay with like nicknames and like the silliness with the parents, right? And then the next day you were like, it's done.
Cool. Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, oh, that's so ridiculous. Like, I hope my child never does that with me. We're going to make sure that we're always like, whatever. Then reality hit, and my child is very much in that stage of like some of the silliness that we used to do. She has flat out told me, like, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm too old for this now. And you're like, you get it. But at the same time, I very much, when I rewatched Father of the Bride, George Banks is high on my honorable mentions because I swapped him with his other character that's on my list. But that was a moment that hit me really hard this time around because I am currently starting to experience the first handful of steps to that. And it's very like, ooh, not prepared. And like the movies are full of shit, man. They did not prepare me enough for when this transition starts happening. So that has been an interesting time.
I feel like I took
it really sucks.
I feel like I took my very first step in that journey that you just talked about because we took like our 1 month photos of our baby and it's the 2 month photos, and seeing the difference between 1 month and 2 months, I was not okay with it. I was like, nope, don't like that. That's not cool.
Too much.
Yeah. I can't believe it.
Yeah. It's so Father of the Bride, like I was laughing a lot, and then all of a sudden those like heart moments would hit, and like his visions where he sees her as the little girl again when she's actually an adult. Those I was like, fuck this movie, like hell no. It's been like an emotional couple weeks, folks, because wow, your children break you, man. They really do.
They really do.
Well, my number 5 is Steve Martin.
Oh, perfect.
I went with a different movie. Actually, I went with a movie that came out a few years before Father of the Bride did.
Yep.
I'm going with Martin's character of Gil Buckman from Parenthood.
Yeah. I was going to guess that.
Yeah. This character, like I grew up watching Parenthood and I didn't understand a lot that was in the movie because one, I was a child and a lot of the whole perspective is from different parents and the different like issues that they're going through with their kids. And I didn't really get any of that. Watching Parenthood as an adult, even pre-Parenthood, you're watching it like, ooh, that situation would suck.
Yeah.
Watching it as a parent, you're like, God, this situation sucks.
Yeah.
Like,
You're like, how do you get through that?
Right.
You're like sitting there taking notes. You're like, please tell me in case it comes up.
Teach me. But I think the way Steve Martin played this character, actually all the characters in the movie, truly, they're so real. There's such a like raw honesty, even with Steve Martin's, his character of Gil, who's very in the moment with his children. He's very present. He wants to do what he can, with his son's birthday party. What he ends up doing for that is pretty cool. But then the movie really shows you, and Martin does a great job of showing like the frustration mounting, the stress of everything mounting, and just how does a parent process when there's so much weighing down on them and so much stress, so much angst, and not necessarily from the kid, just life in general is just beating you up so much that you just can't take it. And then you start like second guessing yourself as a parent, which is a very, very normal thing. Just to let everyone know, doubt is a very present thing in parenthood. And I never understood that, but I think the movie Parenthood does a great job of showing doubt in a parent, which you don't see a lot. You always see like you said earlier, where the dad's a complete idiot, doesn't know his way around anything. And then the mom is like the ultimate caregiver, always strong, might have some frustrating moments. They have an argument or two and then everything's roses. But Parenthood kind of lets the doubt just be. Yeah. And Steve Martin, one of the most powerful scenes to me with Martin is him and his wife have this huge explosive argument that just comes out of left field. Like it just blows up for both of them. And they both say things. Him especially says stuff that like, it's so devastating, but he's saying it just because he's trying to like get the shit out. So that it can't like keep festering for him. And to me, that was a scene that I was like, there it is. This is why he needs to be on my list. The silliness, the fun, making sure he's, present for his kids. Hell yeah. But just the decision to be so raw and honest with some of the stuff that people don't like talking about or acknowledging that comes with parenthood. I absolutely love that. So, and all the characters go through this. It's just the way he does it. His was the one that hit home for me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's definitely a big thing that I'm like kind of noticing and talking a lot with Christy, and she knows it, like it's been talking about it and thinking about it on like the mom side as well, where being a parent's really, really hard, and it can feel like you don't know what you're doing and you have all the pressure in the world to do it right. And it can feel very lonely because you don't know like who knows what to do right and all these things. And if you ask the wrong questions or you ask the wrong people, that could be super judgmental about what you're doing or how you're doing. So yeah, I think that there's just a lot of things like built up, and it is so helpful to be able to get that out and to say, this is really hard. I have this crazy situation. I don't know what to do about it. I need like just to air it out and not feel alone in it, and to have other people online or whatever say, yeah, that's really sucks. I had that problem. And we did this, you can try this. So like it's different for everybody, but you're not alone in it, I guess, is the main
Right.
thing.
Yeah, that just I love that movie in general, but
Mhm.
Steve Martin, just his character of Gil is fantastic.
The piece of that movie that just came to mind for me is it's not like a dad moment. Well, it's a dad moment. It's like a surrogate father moment
Yeah.
where young Joaquin Phoenix is having this like problem that he can't talk to his mom about, single mom. And so he talks to his older sister's boyfriend, Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves.
and he's like, just feels so much better. And she notices and she's like, oh, I guess a boy Gary's age just needs a man around the house to have these conversations with. But then Todd, Keanu Reeves' character, is like, well, it depends on the man, because I had a man around my house and he was putting cigarettes out on me and like a total asshole. And so it's nice to have Keanu Reeves there, his character there, to help this other little dude who is like being a father figure to him, even though he's,
and you judge Keanu Reeves' character so much during that movie because he's an idiot in that film. So I love that they gave him that moment where you as the audience see him have that glimmer of growing up, and the mom in that scene also has that of like, oh, okay. So even when like I'm doubting his skills completely, there's that hope still. And I think that's like ultimately the whole thing with all the characters in that film is there's always still some hope. Like you got to hold on to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, find your tribe.
Yeah.
By the way, parents, find your tribe. It's good for you.
Yeah. Don't do it alone.
So that's my number 5.
That's a great number 5. I love it. My number 4 is a crossover with John. So my number 4 is Daniel Hillard from Mrs. Doubtfire, played by the great Robin Williams.
So I'm gonna interject. I'm sorry, Jake.
Okay.
We have the same number 4.
Nice. I love when that happens.
John, we have like a trifecta here, bud. Thanks for kicking it off.
I forget where his was at. I think it was like 6 or something.
You know, he actually sent me the photo of his list, but I didn't look at it because I wanted to hear it first.
That'd be hilarious if it was a 3-way tie for 4th.
I'm gonna find out.
Yeah, you look it up. I'll get going. So I had to put him on here. Every time I watch this movie, I feel more and more like he basically didn't do anything wrong. Like he has this fight with his wife, and they obviously have these problems, and he has his children taken away from him by the courts, but he in my opinion, doesn't really do anything wrong. He is more of a friend to his kids than like a full parent, and that puts a lot of pressure on the mom to be the disciplinarian and all this stuff. She has to do the hard shit, and she doesn't appreciate that, and it makes it rough. And so yes, he's taking too much time to be fun and be friends with the kids, and a lot of the movie is him kind of growing up and being more responsible and not being able to. He reconnects with the kids because he doesn't have to. He doesn't get to assume that he knows them. He has to come in as another person, as dressed as this British housekeeping lady, and get to know them from scratch, basically, and that makes him connect with them more because he knows where they are at this point in their life, and he's able to kind of parent them better by starting fresh in an interesting way. So I think overall, Daniel Hillard is a great dad because he just loves his kids so much, and he will do anything he can to be close to them. His
closing remarks in the courtroom are heartbreaking. Heartbreaking.
Yeah. Oh, it's true.
I agree with everything you said. I'd be curious to hear like John's, like his perspective, because John is a newish father as well, folks. And I'd be curious to hear his perspective on Daniel Hillard. what strikes me every time I watch Mrs. Doubtfire, it's such a frustrating movie for me. It's so frustrating. I totally understand where Sally Field's character is coming across. Like, she's just tired of being the only adult in the house. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. The extremes she goes to keep him away. I'm like, you are a horrible human being, and you make this movie difficult to watch.
It is ridiculous. Like, the fact that the court would go that far. They treat him like he's abused somebody. Like his visitation is so limited and all this stuff. It is very frustrating.
It's very frustrating. But I love his development through Mrs. Doubtfire, like through this character that he made, like what you said, where now he's connecting with his kids fresh, which is so weird. I can't even really imagine that full effect. I kind of had to reconnect with my kid, and I feel like I'm still trying to reconnect with her. But on that level, no, luckily I didn't have to pretend to be this whole other human being. I can just like, hey kid, we got to start. But I love his development and learning how to not be the friend.
Yeah.
But to be a parent and to be like, to have boundaries and structure, how he has to embrace all of that. Originally through just the character, but then, you know, when you see his apartment and you see like just him in general, you start seeing the actual changes in him, even down to his haircut. His haircut changes.
Yeah. He just gets his shit together.
Yeah. And it's awesome to watch. And Robin Williams in that movie is so fucking good.
Yeah.
He's so, like, comic genius. And it's hilarious. He's so fucking good.
Yeah.
Yes. I believe his closing remarks were not just him speaking as a character, but him speaking as an actual dad because he had children. And just talking about, like, when you love something so profoundly, and I can't speak for every, because there's some really shitbag parents out there.
Yeah.
But for me, I've never experienced, nor can I really describe, or at least do justice to describing that kind of intense love for a human being. It's like, it's something I'll never experience it again. It's that simple. It's like, I don't want to say a one and done, but it's something that just like, and it keeps growing and it gets more frustrating. Because you're like, I don't know what to do. Like, oh my God.
It's something that totally caught me off guard. Like, it's just unimaginably powerful.
Yeah. It's
and everybody says, oh yeah, you love your kids a lot, but you don't understand until it's there. It's unbelievable.
It has an effect, folks. And it's, you really do have to just kind of experience it. And it's wow. But Daniel Hillard, that character, I think he speaks for all of us dads, or at least, you know, I felt like he was kind of speaking for me, saying some stuff that I've always wanted to try and say, just with like, I'm addicted to my kid. Like, I literally cannot do anything without the child's interest. Like, it's so weird how that happens. And I love that. And the whole, oh my God, rewatching it. I rewatched it this afternoon. I had to leave work early today because I had way too many hours. And so I was like, ooh, I have enough time I'm going to get a few more movies watched. Let's just confirm and maybe like juggle that last one I told you about. And I rewatched Mrs. Doubtfire. And I was doing so well, dude. I was great. I was watching. I was like, yeah, he's here. This is where I want him on my list. And then fucking the ending comes up. And like when he picks up his kids again, spoiler. But when the mom sees Mrs. Doubtfire on the TV and she's responding to that letter from the girl who's like, my parents are divorced. How do I deal with this? His little monologue through Mrs. Doubtfire about love and parents' love and all that, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Damn it! Oh, being a parent breaks you, man.
Yeah.
I fucking cry at everything anymore. It's ridiculous.
It's true. I did find myself getting more emotional than I ever was before.
Like,
Caring about things in the world makes you care about more things in the world. And it's kind of like a snowball, and it kind of sucks.
Every Christmas, when my daughter and I watch Jim Carrey's The Grinch, don't worry, folks. His line of like, I'm leaking, I'm feeling. Every time I'm like, literally every time I start crying at something dumb, or not dumb, I shouldn't say dumb, but at something that I never would have before being a parent, I look at her, I'm like, you did this to me. You broke me. She's like, I know.
Yeah. She's like, Dad, stop being embarrassing.
She actually, says that a lot.
Yeah, that's teenagers for you.
All right.
Wow, that was a double header there. Hold on. It threw me off. I think we're at 1, 2.
We're at
3,
number
4.
3.
Okay, so we'll do one more, and then we'll do our dad call in.
Yeah.
So my number 3 is probably the best dad character of the last decade, maybe longer than that. My number 3 is Lee Abbott from A Quiet Place, and A Quiet Place 2. John Krasinski, the way he plays him and wrote him and directs him, all the stuff that he does. I don't actually remember if he wrote it, but he definitely directed it.
He did.
Freaking, it's just so good. Like, I was watching it, and I was watching it by myself because my wife's like movie, like media tastes have changed becoming a parent as well, where she's like not as interested in like the super dark, scary things anymore. And I was like, oh, she loves A Quiet Place. I'll start watching it, but then I'll watch it later with her as well. And the very beginning, when spoiler if you've never seen A Quiet Place from 2018, skip ahead. Yeah, the kid, like the dad is just carrying the son. They're walking home. He's like leading his family home, and you hear the like cacophony of sound come from behind him as a kid. Took the toy he told him not to take. And he's like running as fast as he could possibly run. He's never tried this hard to run this fast, and he still can't get there in time before his son is snatched away from him by this monster, and there's nothing he can do. That moment, and it's like, boom, A Quiet Place. I was like, fuck this movie. This movie is so goddamn good. It's so damn good. Like, I could have... and then that's not even the best part. That's like the first part of the movie. But spoiler for the opening.
I love how you said that. Because we both had moments in movies like, oh, fuck this.
Yeah. It hits different for real now. And the whole movie does. So my actual favorite part is when his son is obviously, his older son, the one he was carrying before, is obviously afraid to live in this world with these monsters and stuff that they can't make any noise. And his wife, who is a real life wife, Emily Blunt, which is fun, tells him to take him with him to go out and get water or whatever. And so the kid doesn't want to, he's afraid. And so even when they get to this big loud waterfall, his dad like yells because he can. He's like, hey, we can yell here. And the kid is terrified. Like he's just constantly afraid. And I love that scene because the dad is trying to teach him not only don't be afraid, like you can be brave, but also pay attention, use what's around you. Like you're trying to survive all this stuff, and you can if stuff is loud around you, you're okay. You can be loud with it, that kind of stuff. And it's those lessons that he takes the time to teach his kids that let them grow and save each other and save their mom and save like everybody else, like as time goes on. And so he's imparting these things to them, and that's a dad. I mean, that's what he needs to be in order for their family to survive. But the like break you part, the part you said, the part where I'm leaking, is the end, obviously. Spoiler again, fast forward again.
Big spoiler alert, folks.
When he signs I love you to them as he's like going to save them, and there's like a meme that I saw a couple weeks ago, and it's just like stuck with me. It's like that what is it? It's like that masculine urge to hold off an overwhelming force so that your family can escape to safety. that's like a thing that's like
Yeah.
inside of us, and that he does it, and it's like very like that is so sad, but also so good. Like that's a
Yeah.
good thing that you did, and I really appreciate you. This big dick energy right there.
What I love and appreciate so much of that character, I didn't put him on my list. He's an honorable mention though. What I love about that whole character, there's two things that just I'm like, it's too well written, first off.
Mhm.
But the two scenes that just always like, this is damn near perfect in terms of writing from a parent's point of view, writing a character of a parent, and just this whole how does a parent even begin to try and handle this situation?
Yeah.
And the lengths you go to for your children. So the two things, one, yeah, that ending when he signs, I've always loved you. Like, are you fucking kidding me? But the fact that he doesn't even like, there's no hesitation. Like, as a parent, and this, some people might think this is like, ooh, that got dark. It's not dark. This is just what it is. As a parent, one of the incredible things that clicks in you is you have a full, how do I want to word this? A complete peacefulness that if it came down between your life and your kids, there is no debate. You simply just know, well, it's the kid. Like, and you have like, you're okay with that. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's powerful. And I love that you see that in him where he sees a situation and he just immediately is like, oh, this is how it is.
Yeah.
And he does it. Ugh. Yeah.
It rips your heart out, but it
rips
is so
you
good.
apart. Just destroys you. Like, well, that's it for me. But there's a detail in that movie that not a lot of people talk about, and it kind of bums me out that they don't, because I'm like, it's such a great thing that they show. So, the deaf daughter thinks that her dad hasn't like loved her, that he's kind of separated from her, and he hasn't at all the whole time that she's not seeing what's actually in front of him, not just studying the creatures. The whole time he's been trying to find like how do I correct your hearing aid?
Yeah.
How do I like give you the world? How do I do this for you?
Yeah.
And I love that, like, just when you as the audience learn, the dude has been constantly trying to do this one thing, and he's going to great lengths to do this one thing for his kid. It's just a small detail. It's one of those little things to me that I'm like, yeah, because it doesn't always necessarily mean like you got to sacrifice your life, but he's saying like he makes sacrifices the whole time to make sure his kids have a future.
And you do things constantly that they don't know or won't ever see, because you're not doing it for like thank yous or appreciation or anything. But she does end up realizing it, and it hits her immediately. She's like, oh, I've been a dick because he actually does care, and he has been caring. And he's been doing all this stuff for me that I have taken for granted.
Yeah, dude, kids just, god damn.
You damn kids.
You damn whippersnappers.
Speaking of damn whippersnappers and old men, let's go to my
Let's
dad.
go to
The recent grandfather that I have made him. Hold on, let me share my stupid tab here real quick. Here,
that was a long way of saying we're gonna hear Jake's dad's.
Yes,
his
my
list.
dad has called in and given his favorite movie dads, and here they are.
Growing up in the 60s and 70s, I have a few favorite film fathers from a lot of Disney movies, like Dean Jones, who had a daughter that wanted a horse and got his company to pay for it as an advertising stunt, or in Snowball Express, moving his family to Colorado and starting a ski resort, or Fred McMurray, who did My Three Sons on TV, and a movie called Follow Me Boys, one of my favorites, where he and his wife couldn't have kids, but he was a scoutmaster of a Boy Scout troop and adopts one of the boys in town who happens to be Kurt Russell as a teenager. Also, Jimmy Stewart and where he rents a house on the beach for the summer and all the problems with the house and family drama is pretty funny. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got Kurt Russell in Overboard.
I broke up there, but I think it was Mr. Hobbs Takes a Vacation.
Yeah.
Which is a great one with Jimmy Stewart.
That's awesome. Dude, your dad brought up Snowball Express.
Yeah.
For people that don't know, that was a movie that I watched this year for the first time on our last random episode. And that is a fantastic, silly. If you want to feel good, go watch Snowball Express.
It's such an interesting list to me because obviously I've seen all those movies. They're ones we had in the house as kids, and yeah, I definitely do like them, but they're not the ones I would have thought he would have loved. Like Mr. Hobbs Takes a Vacation, I definitely would have thought.
Excuse me.
But all the other ones, I'm like, those are such interesting choices, and now I'm very excited to talk to him about it.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I was actually expecting your dad to throw down some like Western dads. Like I expected some kind of like, we'll get into it. Obviously, well, no, we'll get it. I'll save it. I'll save it.
Yeah, you save it.
I'll save it. That's a very interesting list. I was not surprised to hear your dad kick it off with like, here's some Disney dads. I was like, there's Jake. There's RJ.
Yeah, those like old 50s, 60s, 70s live action Disney movies, they're good. Like Disney's gone a little weird lately, but they used to be pretty interesting, like good dad stuff. So
yeah.
Revisit it.
I dug your dad's list though. That was very interesting.
You're number three.
Your number 3 or is it mine?
No, I was Lee Abbott at number 3.
Oh, that's
right. You're next.
All right. So my number 3 is the last like funny one.
Oh, okay.
I love this dad so much. He's awesome. He's another one of those. He's a scene stealer. He never really like makes the big humbling speech or does a typical father thing. But why he's so high up on my list, excuse me, is because of his reliability.
Okay.
And his incredible way to just accept a situation, and the way he approaches stuff is so like practical, but in a funny way that I dig it. And I love this character more than I love the whole franchise, honestly. And I think the franchise is hilarious, but this character, I have just gotten such a big kick out of. So my number 3 is Mr. Levinstein from the American Pie franchise. I love this dad so much.
Yeah.
He's super embarrassing. He's so awkward. But I love his approach of just like, well, I guess this is what we're gonna deal with now, and let's do it. And I love that he's not afraid to approach his kid with the super awkward things. I don't necessarily agree with some of his tactics.
Yeah, but like, he does try. He embraces it, and you give him credit for that.
He's trying to he means well.
Yeah.
And he's got such a like sincerity to how he's approaching stuff with Jim. Yeah. Probably not the best thing to bring your son like a bag full of porn. But but where he's coming from with it, I think is great that he's trying to show his son like, you don't have to be embarrassed around me. You don't have to like, if you have questions, just talk to me. Like, we can talk. We can do this.
Yeah.
I'll just try and figure it out. But I like that he never tries to fake his way through anything. He's very honest and he's very stumbly, which I think is an admirable quality in a father.
Yeah. He's not afraid to tell his son that he doesn't know. Like
Yeah,
what
like
I don't know what you kids are doing these
like
days. I don't know what you're doing on the table, but
right. I guess we're telling your mom that we ate it all. I always imagine the conversation before and after that between the
yeah,
two of like, you know, maybe we don't try this. We don't do this. Maybe we
yeah. Yeah, there are better ways to go about this.
I've always watched, especially that first movie, I've always watched it with the idea of like they had to have rewritten or taken out so much from the dad to maintain the like immaturity throughout the story, because I feel like as silly and bumbly as the dad is,
Yeah.
I would imagine as a father he would be actually probably pretty like, all right, like he's got to have those moments of like, here's how this is.
Yeah.
Like you can't be having sex with a pie.
Yeah.
Don't be using your sock. Don't
Yeah.
be like but one of my favorite moments from him isn't even in the first movie. It's actually in the third one when he's talking to Allison Hannigan's character
hmm
right before they're about to get married, and she's like having a panic attack. The way he talks her down and
Yeah.
the way that he just talks to her, I love so much.
Mhm.
Just that quick conversation with her where he's just trying to tell her like this is a normal thing
Yeah.
to be nervous or to have, you know, fear of all this, but here's, you know, here's a gross story, but you're gonna get something from it. And you're
Yeah.
like, how does this guy always make the situation better by like kind of being
You're-
like Clark Griswold almost of
Yeah.
you're making it worse, but
It's
there
not what you'd expect to work.
yeah. But I love Mr. Levinstein so
Yeah.
much, dude. I really do.
He's a great dad. He's one of those like any like friend group, especially when you're like younger high school age groups. It was like everybody's dad had like a thing. Like your
Yeah.
dad, this guy's dad's that way, this guy's dad's that way. Can your dad beat up my dad? All that stuff. And so for that to be Jim's dad is that guy, it's just it makes that movie so much better.
Yeah, it really does.
Funny that you say he's a lot like Clark Griswold because
here we go.
my number 2 is Clark Wilhelm Griswold from specifically Christmas Vacation because I do believe that is the best one. It is the most complete version of that family and him as a father.
I love that not only did we have the crossover of Clark,
Mhm.
but that you also sided with me on it's Christmas Vacation that like seals this deal.
Yeah. And his coworker says in that movie when he's like talking about this pool that he's put a down payment on and all this stuff, he's like, you're the last great American family man.
Yeah,
And he truly is. Everything you said is perfect. Like I'm probably just going to repeat everything that you said, but specifically how he wants his family to have memories. And he's like forcing these traditions on them so that they have these memories, even though the kids don't want to. They don't want to go up and cut the Christmas tree. They don't want to do all these things. But he's like, we have to do them because we're a family and that's what families do. And you need these memories. And my wife posted something the other day, or I guess it was a while ago, but it said that you only have 18 summers with your kids until they like grow up, and so you have to make your memories in that time frame. And that just like put it in perspective for me. Like that seems like such a small number.
it is a small number.
to
Like that's
have
a tiny number.
Yeah, you have 18 summers with your kids and to do this stuff. And so I feel like that is Clark's entire ethos is make it count, and he does overall. I think that he has this very kind of nostalgic side, which is very fun too, where when he's like up in the attic and he's like watching all his home videos, and he just wants a nice family Christmas, like by any means necessary, basically.
Yeah, I specifically Christmas. The line, I feel like as a kid, I always took this one line as like, oh, he's proud of what he was able to pull off. Cool. Like they had their Christmas. now that I'm older and parenting and all that, every time I watch Christmas Vacation, when he has that final line of like, I did it, I take that not as, oh, we pulled off Christmas. I take it as he's like, he has some peace of, I pulled off what I've been trying to do since fucking Wally World. Like, I did it. We created, out of all this chaos, we have that moment. We have that memory. This is that time. I think that's so like, as a dad, I hope I can have that moment, that quiet moment to myself where I can sit back and just be like, I did it.
Yeah.
That like affirmation or that confirmation to yourself, like you did it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I completely agree. That would be nice.
We'll get it. We're going to get it.
I believe so. We'll try our hardest, and that's all that matters.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Well, my number 2, no longer fun. In fact, my number 2 is pretty heartbreaking for the majority of this story. But we've been talking heavy on like choices, consequences to those choices, trying to do anything you can just so that your kid can still feel good, so your kid can smile, have something to eat, somewhere to sleep, and just trying to figure your way out, even in the worst times. My number 2 is Chris Gardner from The Pursuit of Happiness.
Okay.
This dude's journey is so frustrating, but you get it. And understanding the economic times that the movie takes place in and just the situation he's in throughout the film, but looking at that bigger picture of, if I can just get like legit know, if I can get this career going, it's significant change. We can have something, we can have structure. I can give my son a life, you know, and he's so full of, I mean, he's humiliated that whole film, but every time he's around his son, he's putting on that, like, it's okay. Like, it's just the next thing that I have to do. This is just our next step. Yeah, this kind of sucks, but we're going to do what we need to do. The part, like, I do really well throughout that movie, but the part that fucking, like, I feel it just go, is in the train station when he, like, plays the whole pretend game of the imaginary world around them, and they have to find this cave to go and hide from the dinosaurs. Fucking breaks me. Are you kidding me? But the part of that movie that is so, honestly, it might be, I was rewatching it last night. It might be one of the greatest scenes, like, ever. It just might be. At least one of the most powerful is the ending after he's told, like, he's in the office at his interview and he's like, they make the joke of like, oh, you're wearing a shirt today. And he's like, well, I figured it's the last day, you know, this internship, so I might as well wear a shirt since I didn't wear a shirt on my first interview. And they tell him like, well, wear another one tomorrow. Will Smith, say what you will about the dude, but that dude pulls a Tom Hanks acting move where his on cue crying and how he tries to like maintain composure, but you see the tears like dripping down his cheeks, and then he just exits the office. When he starts applauding, like that quick clap, fuck. Like, and being able to pick up his son from daycare, knowing he achieved something, and his son is now actually going to have a prosperous life. Like, that's powerful. As a parent, you want your kids to prosper, and you want to be the provider of that. And so that moment for him where he knows he gets to be that provider, like, that's so profound. It's so powerful. Yeah. I can't dock this character because the amount of character that he had to have just to go through it, just to keep going every day, every night is so big. Yeah. So I love that movie. I love that character. And Will Smith is like, fucking A, dude. He does
Yeah.
so good in that.
I mean, that's the whole thing that you're trying to do is make sure your kids are taken care of and they have
Yep.
everything they need and they're safe and when they're small that they don't kill themselves because they don't know what they're doing and they can't control their body and all this stuff. It's just a whole thing that you do your whole life, and I'm looking forward to it immensely. But it's made me think a lot about fatherhood and the role of a father in providing for your family and your kids and all that stuff and what that means. And it makes me think of like, there has been, you talked about earlier, that like historical stigma of fathers who are just away. They go to work, they come back, they spend an hour or two with the family at the end of the day, but they're generally not present or actively like emotionally engaging and all that stuff. And it makes me like, I mean, that's their way of taking care of their family, even though it's not touchy-feely and nice. It's their kids got a meal at the end of the day. They got like a roof over their head and they're taking care of them because that's their job. And there's admirableness to that for sure as well.
Yeah. That relationships, like I very much embrace the relational side of fatherhood a lot more than like just the basics, but I understand the basics. So I try not to hold it or like hold a grudge against how historically or generationally it's been for fathers. I'm glad that we are in a time for fatherhood where like that stigma does seem to be kind of, or not stigma. Stigma sounds wrong. What's the word? What's wrong? I feel like fatherhood is becoming slowly, very slowly, but baby steps, I guess. It's embraced more, which I'm glad to see, and I'm glad to see fatherhood meaning more than just the basics from the past. Now it's there is more because we do see impact of relationships between a father and their children, and the positive side of it. So I just feel like this character does that really well, and
I agree.
All right, hey, we made it to our number ones.
We sure did. It's very good to get back to number ones. Actually, before we do our number ones,
I was gonna say, do you want to do our final call in?
This would be a good time, I think. It's a two-parter because your dad has a lot to share. So let's start with part one, and we'll go from there.
Awesome.
Okay. Hi, guys, and got a little list for you here. The reason why I chose these items wasn't just because they involve dads, but it's because they involve, the relationship dynamic between dad and the offspring. So
I love my dad.
Right off the bat, I think we've got parenthood because that is just loaded with dads and their relationships.
Like
secondly,
father, like son.
Kodachrome. This is just one of those wow movies when it comes to dad and son type thing. I Am Sam next on the list. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. That's probably everybody's heartstrings on that one. A little bit on the lighter side, you've got The In-Laws.
Oh, and then there's a second part. Hold on. Let's switch over to it.
Okay, so I got cut off there. I'm just going to continue on. National Lampoon's Vacation.
Classic.
Again, a little bit on the lighter side. Then Road to Perdition.
Oh.
How about
it's Tom Hanks for
Patriot?
Oh, shit.
We'll go to Big Fish. kind of an odd one. Since the storyline is all about the son, I still think it's a dad kind of movie because it's his discovery about his dad. And then after that, again on the lighter side, Father of the Bride.
There you go, Jake.
This one, of course, is not a father and son type of thing. It's a father-daughter, you know. And then we go to Big Jake. I had to throw something in there, you know, John Wayne a bone there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you, Dad. Love
That-
the list. Love the list.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I was thinking of a different movie with Kodachrome. I just brought it up. It definitely sounds like one that I really want to watch.
Yeah, I'm very interested as well.
It's about a father and son going on a road trip to Kansas.
All right, apparently it's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only one I never heard of, but the rest of them spot on. And obviously we listed a lot of them here, so good taste.
Yep. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Jake's dad. Thank you, everyone, honestly, for calling in. You guys rock. We
You
love
do.
the list. And
That was awesome.
Thank you.
All right, so your dad touched on my number one. He touched on a lot of movies, but I touched on my number one. My number one favorite dad in any movie has to be Captain Benjamin Martin from The Patriot. This movie, ridiculously good. It would only be about half as good if it was just an old war hero who has to come out of retirement and join the American Revolution. His whole purpose and his connection to his family is what defines his character and just completely makes this movie, in my opinion. And I have always, like, I guess, missed this part, but the opening lines of the movie is like voiceover, and it essentially sets the context of the film, which is that old adage that the sins of the father shall be returned upon the sons. That literally happens in this movie, where he has been this war hero and this very, I guess, skilled fighter in his younger days, but he has, as becoming a parent, changed him, as it has for all of us, and he has chosen a life of peace, and he really does not want to go to war, and he does not want to get back into that because he knows what it will do to his kids and what will happen when they get enlisted or drafted or when they draft themselves or whatever. So it's just too good. My favorite scene has always been at the town hall meeting at the beginning when they're talking about should they go to war or not, and how a elected legislature can trample a man's rights as easily as a king can, and all that good stuff. But the most poignant part is when he's talking about, yeah, I believe all of these things you're saying. I believe that we shouldn't have taxation without representation, all this stuff, but I don't have the luxury of principles because I'm a parent and I need to do what's best for my kids above what's best for you, what's best for a country and generations of people, and what's best for myself. I don't have that luxury. All I have to do is what's best for them, and he does. And so it's such a powerful movie. It's especially, I love how he has he has all these kids. He's lost his wife. He has 7 children, and he's raising them. And the oldest ones are like excited about being able to go to war, and he's like very nervous about that, I think, because he sees a lot of himself in them, that he used to be excited about it too, but then he kind of found out what it's all about. But the fact that when his 2 oldest are one is taken, one is killed, and so he needs to get them back, he takes his 2 middle children, very young children, and he just gives them rifles and he says, we need to go. And he has, even though he is a peaceful man and a peaceful farmer, he knows what the world is like, and he has still taken the time to prepare them so that in this ridiculous situation, you wouldn't expect the British to come to your house and take your child, but they did, and he has prepared his children to the extent that they can now help him. They know how to aim small and miss small and help them save their brother. So just that forethought, like you were saying, like I don't know what the future is going to bring, but I need to prepare you for it, to have the skills and the wisdom and all of that stuff to handle it and to help me handle it, because I can't do everything on my own. It's just unbelievable. And there's a lot of everything we said about like Father of the Bride in it as well, where his oldest son, he's played by Heath Ledger, is a man. He's becoming a man, and he has a romantic interest, and he wants to join the war and all this stuff, and he has to see him as a man and not just his child anymore, and let him do those things, and see him as a peer as he's like commanding him in this militia and stuff. So it's such an incredible movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and he is just an incredible dad. So it has to be number one.
Yeah. The father side of the Patriot is intense. The one scene, I do great throughout that movie, but there's one scene, I don't know if I'll even be able to talk about it. Like, I'm already taking breaths.
Yeah,
I can picture it. Him and his youngest daughter, who doesn't talk for the majority of that film.
Yeah,
where he is just he knows what his duty is for protecting the family, and he understands like there's a separation now between him and his youngest daughter, but he keeps trying to just like, I just need something, right?
Yeah.
When she screams daddy,
yeah, because she
God
has not spoken since her mother died, and he's about to leave, and she's just gives up and wants him to stay so much that she'll finally decide to start talking. And just that, how do you see that like elation wash over him of like joy that she's still there? That's incredible. Yeah, I love that side as well, where he has found a balance of all sides. He has 7 different children with different personalities. He has boys and girls, and he's been able to connect and relate and father all of them pretty successfully, I would say. And so it's admirable, and I love it.
Yeah, that's a great pick. Great pick.
Thank you.
Well, my number one, man, I struggled. Struggled and I struggled some more. And then I rewatched a bunch of stuff. And just like, none of them were really hitting that number one spot. They were all doing what I wanted them to. I was rewatching honorable mentions. And then I had this thought where I was like, let's revisit something that like really hit me in my childhood. Let's revisit something. So I popped a certain movie in from my childhood, and it was one of those things where instantly I was like, there he is. There he is.
Nice.
My number one is tragic. Sorry. I don't get to end my top 10 on a silly, happy note. Mine's tragic. Mine's possibly one of the most traumatic moments for anyone that grew up in the 90s, honestly, when it came to movies.
The scene from Neverending Story where the horse gets caught in the tar pit.
No, way worse than that. My number one is Mufasa from The Lion King.
Yeah.
Tragic, but everything for that short amount of screen time that Mufasa has, the whole way that he is with Simba, all the lessons that he deliberates, speaks to, the way he speaks to Simba and still has that playfulness with him, the way he is trying to prepare Simba for that bigger picture, trying to embrace stuff, teaching him how to hunt, teaching him just basic, like, this is what's over here. Here's what you can expect in this area. Here's how, like, kind of the world for us works.
Right.
And you have to not only lead it someday, it's kind of like Mufasa's kind of like the Jonathan Kent for me, where it's like, you're going to what you choose to do defines you.
Yeah.
But on top of that, you're going to have to be a leader.
Yeah.
And that's going to be rough because you have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
But
you're going to have all this power and you're not going to be ready for it. And
yeah. And Simba, you know, obviously takes a lot of that for granted, as children do. But I love how Mufasa, his whole cadence is just so perfect.
Yeah.
And it's so funny too. Like when I realized, like, I can't deny Mufasa might have had the biggest fatherly impact from a movie on me than like everyone else. And when I rewatched it, I was like, fuck. Even like, and again, what really ended up just being like, yes. Like I knew the moment I started watching Lion King, but the moment that I was like, yep, was Mufasa's sacrifice. It was like what you said with Quiet Place, or what we both talked about with A Quiet Place, where as a parent, as a father, like there's no question.
Yeah.
And him diving into that stampede with like balls to the wall, no hesitation, just here we go.
Yeah.
Knowing he's probably going to not make it out. Like rewatching that as an adult, you understand he knows he's not coming out of this one.
Yeah.
And him trying to make it up the rocks, up that cliff, like he has that glimmer of hope of just maybe, and of course Scar fucks all that up.
Yeah.
Bastard.
Yeah.
But I can't deny the immense impact that Mufasa as a character had, not just on my childhood, but like as an adult. You hear, like, I had to laugh at James Earl Jones' voice that we, you know, with Vader from John.
Yeah.
John, we're still questioning that, but but I was like, there's something about his voice that to me is so defining as a father.
Yeah.
Like that's the tone. And it's so funny, like talking to our dads or whatever, because obviously they don't sound like James Earl Jones. But I can tell you this, and Jake, I'm sure you can agree, there have been moments in our lives
when they want to,
where they can sound like that. And you're like, oh.
Yeah. Or at least they can make you feel as if they are that big.
Yeah.
Because you are in trouble.
But you know, and then when Simba has the vision of Mufasa reminding him of like, remember who you are and all that, I feel like that is a constant lesson as a father, as a parent. You're always trying to give your children. And this is probably something, I'm not even saying this as me with my soon to be teenage daughter, or you with, you know, your 3-month-old son. I feel like parents of adults, this is their new mission, is to keep their grown-up children kind of grounded, making sure their children stay somewhat grounded, of just like, hey, remember where you came from, remember who you are, like really put this into perspective, keep this in perspective. And I love Mufasa, dude. Like that, just his character, I felt really encompassed everything I already had in my list, and just kind of was like, they all culminate into
the
him.
peak. Yeah. So. I don't disagree. That's a great point. And yeah, he is really, really great. So there you go.
That's our top 10.
Top 10 dads.
Wow. What a list, man. It's been an emotional week. Just trying to prep for this, because watching all this with like that very focused perspective of, I'm watching all of this as a father, from a father's perspective. And what are the traits of these fathers that I'm watching that I'm like, I connect with that. Very, very interesting. There were some movies I was watching, I was like, God damn. God damn.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You want to do honorable mentions?
Yeah.
So one I actually remembered while you were talking about The Descendants. I probably it would have been on my list possibly if I had remembered it earlier. I had forgot it that it existed. But Dan from Dan in Real Life was such a good movie, and I feel like a solid dad. I really like him as a dad. Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird. the way he like talks about his kid, and the way that he as a dad is very respected, and everybody in the stands like tell him your dad's walking, like stand up, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Calvin Weber from Blast from the Past. The dad in that is like one of my favorites, where he's just like
so funny.
Constantly trying to teach him stuff and take care of him in this bunker. It's amazing, but I love it. And then Cinderella Man I would have had on my list, except it was on my top 10 sports. And also it's a lot like John Q in the sense that he'll just go to extreme lengths to for his kids. And it's during like the Great Depression, and he's a boxer who will get beat up just to put food on the table. But an incredible movie. I love Jim Braddock and Cinderella Man.
Yeah, that's another tough one to get through, just because like the journey of it is just like, ugh, god damn.
Yeah.
Well, most of my honorable mentions were mentioned between you, my dad, and John. So I gotta not say all of them.
Yeah.
I would say Mark Wahlberg's character from Instant Family. He plays Pete.
Yeah.
I love, again, like just an honest look at stuff, especially the frustration side of parenting, because I feel like that's a side that either gets joked about a lot or is given kind of a darker side. Because as a parent, you're like, oh, I can't show frustration in parenting itself. Otherwise, I'm a bad person. But hey, folks, it's real.
Yeah,
like,
it's going to be frustrating.
It's very frustrating. But the way he is in this movie, I love watching his transition and trying to figure out a parenting side. And he does put himself in a situation where he's like not adopting just one child. Him and his wife, they're adopting 3 siblings, and one of them's a teenager. And I actually love this movie so much. But I like the honesty of the film, and the honesty that Mark Wahlberg plays that character with. Have you watched Fatherhood on Netflix with Kevin Hart?
No.
Okay, so it's not a typical Kevin Hart movie.
Okay.
It's pretty quiet, pretty intense look at grief and being a single parent, or a parent in general. The whole movie starts off with a funeral. So, this was one of the movies I watched, but I didn't say it earlier because I was like, well, I'm bringing it up later, so I'll just wait. But Kevin Hart's character of Matt, I think, is pretty good. He does make a couple choices in the film that I'm like, I can't even imagine why that would go in your head. But then at the same time, it was a very kind of humbling moment, because you realize like you get to a point sometimes where you looking out for the best interest of your child makes you almost make bad decisions. You mean well, but it's a stupid choice. So I don't hate the choice he makes at one point in the movie as much as I initially did, just because the more I thought about it, the more I was like, ooh, yeah, makes sense.
I've already made those.
This one's a weird one. Well, okay, I'm going to give you 2 weird ones.
Okay. I love weird ones.
Well, weird is the wrong word, but they're not.
Okay. I take back my love then.
They're not technically dads, but they are.
Okay.
Sonny Koufax from Big Daddy. Adam Sandler is fantastic as like this surrogate parent. He starts off real bad, but again, it's one of those where he starts realizing the impact a child can have on his life, and I love that movie so much.
Yeah.
And my last one, second to last one, I have one that'll make you laugh, Jake.
Okay.
I put it specifically just to make you laugh.
Okay.
But this one, Alfred Pennyworth, from specifically Michael Caine's Alfred Pennyworth from the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah.
Is such a father figure to Bruce Wayne. Really all of them, but specifically Caine legitimately views Bruce. Like his version of Alfred views Bruce as, you are my son. And the choices that Alfred has to make throughout, I think, is just awesome.
Yeah, it is.
And my funny one for you is the only good character in this entire franchise, Charlie Swan from Twilight. That dad, I feel so bad for so often.
It's true. He is the best character in those movies by far.
So honorable mention to that gentleman.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great one. When you said surrogate or like not biological fathers, I thought you were going to say H.I. McDonough from Raising Arizona. That's another great one.
That's a great movie, but he is a terrible surrogate father. He tries, but that movie is chock full of everything you should never even imagine doing.
You shouldn't steal a child who's one of five or whatever.
Someone has a lot of them. That is bad. I mean, stealing children's bad no matter what. But that reason, I was like, oh my God, I forgot how ridiculous this was.
It's really ridiculous, but a good time.
It is a funny movie. It's a very funny movie.
Okay.
Did you have anything?
I think the last thing to mention, well, I was going to say, if you ever want to call in to any of our episodes and leave voicemails like our dads and good friends did on this, feel free. The link is in our episode descriptions and the website and all that stuff. You can leave voicemails. We'd love to hear from you, even if it's like about an episode 6 months ago or a really weird movie that you just want to know if we've seen or have an opinion on. Let us know, because we like weird movies and we like talking about all kinds of weird stuff.
Unless it's Mulholland Drive. Fuck that movie.
We're going to get calls about Mulholland Drive now.
I'm all right with that.
And then to close the episode, I told you let's have close it with some dad advice. So do you have some dad advice you would like to share?
Oh man. I feel like I've said quite a bit. One thing, I think I actually said it earlier. One thing that I have learned, continue to learn, and will probably, it's probably never going to end. It is okay to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lesson that is a hard one to kind of learn, kind of make peace with learning, especially as a father, because I approach fatherhood as like, oh, now like time to really step up. You got to be this certain way. And if you're anything below this certain standard, like you're horrible. So like the first couple of years of being a dad, I just, God damn.
Yeah.
Like that was mistake after mistake. Just, I was so overwhelmed and so bad because I kept just hating myself more and more. So, it's okay to make mistakes. As long as you like kind of look at them and try to learn from them.
Right.
If you just ignore them, that's bad. But that's a big one for me right now, is just making peace with that.
Yeah, I've realized it's a job that is impossible to do perfectly.
Yeah.
And there's no way that you ever will, but the fact that you try and you care enough to keep trying to do the best you can, that's what makes you a good parent.
Yeah. You know, your little dude is super young still, so you still have a little ways before you got to worry about this one. But I would say to parents with kids that are like, 6 and up, be honest. Communication, I have learned and very much embrace, and Jake, you know this about me because I've told you about this kind of stuff before too, is you need to be okay to have uncomfortable conversations with your kids. And real conversations. So with my daughter and I, we don't shy. She's still like kind of hesitant about talking about certain subjects with me, and that's okay. What wouldn't be okay is if she wasn't allowed to ever bring up something. So I've really tried to embrace like a genuine open door, if you will, of like, no subject is off the table. You come to me with something, I will tell you what I know. And if I don't know something, I'm going to, like, I'll be honest. I'm not going to bullshit her. I'll just tell her I don't have an answer for this.
Yeah.
And I've told her, as you grow older, if stuff that you and I have talked about, if I am wrong on something, you are more than welcome to tell me. Just be able to tell, like, show me, like, back up that I'm wrong. Be humble. That's a big one for me. It's weird trying to give advice. I'm just fatherhood is. I was trying to write up something about it, and I couldn't find the correct way to put it. It's so intense and it's constant. Just be present for your kid, man. And that goes to everyone watching or listening. If you have kids, just be present with them. Give them their space. Give them that opportunity and openness to come to you for stuff. Some of it's difficult to deal with, some of it you don't want to hear, some of it you don't care about, but you really have to set that aside.
Yeah.
And you really got to give your kids kind of an affirmation that what they say, what they enjoy, like, you got to validate a lot of that. And I think that's a big thing that's kind of been lost over the years is genuine validation for our kids. A lot of it's been kind of this pandering, let's just try and scoot kids through, not really give what they actually need. Boundaries seem to have kind of been given up on with a lot of kids. And I think that sucks because boundaries help give children structure, and structure is so important. Even for us as adults, we need some kind of structure. I mean, if you're allowed to run wild, it sucks. You lose control of stuff, and you find yourself kind of being like, oh no, now I'm in this.
I'm very capable of burning my own life down, or
so
even if it's like not eating enough meals or not showering or just like not doing the things I know I would benefit from doing, but I don't really want to do. Kids have that way more even. And so,
the cool thing about parenting, and it's also the thing that a lot of people I feel get lost with, you're never going to know it all. There's so many parenting books out there. Okay. That parenting book worked for that kid. Children are different. It's very weird. That's why trying to give advice as a dad is like odd, because like what worked for me might not be the best for you. I will say communication will work for everyone. You just have to get over yourself and be prepped for some weird conversations.
Well, and I like your advice about being present. I think if you're present and you pay attention, then you'll be able to pick up on where they're at, what's working for them, what's not working for them. And that's really, I think, probably how you figure it out.
I will say one of the biggest life lessons I ever learned actually came from my daughter when she was like almost 2 years old. I lost sight of this lesson and have recently started regaining kind of this principle. But I remember watching my kid like play, and she was almost 2. It was like the summer before she turned 2. We were in the living room. She had her random crap everywhere, because that's one thing kids will have. Like, you'll have all these toys and random crap that they've also like decided was theirs. They claimed it. And there was this big old wooden spoon, and Monica was playing with it. And like, dude, legit, she looked as content and happy as you could possibly be. And it was a freaking wooden spoon. And I remember looking at her and just having this thought in my head of like, if she can find this like so much peace in this one simple mundane thing and this one object, like, what the hell is wrong with me that I can't find peace or bliss and like thing and stuff that actually embraces it, right?
Yeah.
Kids,
it's like that scene in Knocked Up when they're on the bench and he's like, I wish I loved anything as much as these kids love bubbles.
Seriously.
They go apeshit for
like,
bubbles.
I didn't understand that line
Yeah.
until after I was a dad. And then it was like, oh my God, it's so true.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, embrace it because it is quick. You said we got 18 summers with our children, essentially. That is such a tiny, 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 tiny number.
Yeah.
Compared to the big scheme of things. I mean, hell, summer feels like it just started and we're already towards the end.
Right.
I'm like, crap, what did we do this summer? We didn't do half of we didn't do 2/3 of the crap that I was like, we're doing this summer. We didn't do any of it.
Yeah.
And that kind of sucks. But luckily we made up with it with other fun stuff. But it's there's so much that you could say. I don't want it to sound like a bullet point list, but I will say, like, in all honesty, if you ever, for parents, and Jake and you and Christy already know this 1,000%, if you ever do feel like you just need someone to, like, vent or just to get something out, you know, or just ask about, hey, have you ever experienced this, whatever, feel free to like message us through like the show or whatever.
We have social media, we have email, it's on the website.
Yeah. I'm a super open book. If you haven't guessed, for those that have been listening to the show for a while, I'm pretty open about everything. I'm very honest about everything. As a dad, yeah, I want to be there as a support system for parents. So if you need anything, you can message us. I also I was kind of bummed, but circumstances got in the way. So I do want to give one guy a shout out just because he meant to send us a list, but they had some stuff come up.
Sure.
This will sound weird. But I want to give a shout out to my daughter's stepdad, because there are some awesome stepdads out there that don't get like hardly any attention, or they also have a big stigma against them.
Right.
And you know, the bad ones, fuck off.
Right.
But the good ones that are out there, the unconventional dads, if you will, like, you guys are making a difference. You guys kick ass. And my daughter is very blessed. And I feel very fortunate that she's got a stepdad that like gives a shit.
Yeah.
So
I imagine, I'm not a stepdad, but I imagine it's also a very hard job to figure out where you fit and how you do it. And you're also parenting a kid, and
he's genuinely, he's a good dude. I genuinely like all the respect for that guy. So I was a little bummed that he wasn't able to hop on to send us a little list or whatever, but shout out to him, and shout out to all of the other stepdads and unconventional foster dads and all that stuff. So keep it up, you guys. It's a tough job. It's a tough gig, Jake. And you're just starting, sir. You're just starting.
I am just starting. I think that the two things I've basically learned my dad advice are, one is for dads and parents specifically, something that helped me adapt to this very new and very different pretty like life very quickly, I think, is don't forget to see your kids as people. Even very early on, I think I hear people talk about kids a lot as if they're like a difficult burden or a pet, or like there's just like some attachment or resentment or something. And if you see them as a person, I think that helps a lot, because you will think of that. You'll essentially put yourself in their shoes of, they're a person experiencing the world for the very first time. They don't know what's happening when they get hungry. They don't know how to go to sleep. They don't know anything, and they're trying to figure it out. And so if you can see that and you can help them and you can care about that, then I've found that it's less less abrasive to accept the fact
Mhm.
that they're having a hard time and they're crying and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, no, they're a person. They don't learn very well when they're getting yelled at, like all of this stuff. I don't learn well when I'm getting yelled at, so why would they? So just see them as people is the first one, and I think that helps. And the second is kind of for everyone, and it's the big thing that I've learned so far, which is don't shy away from responsibility. We
Yeah.
kind of talked about it a lot in the episode, but the meaning that you are longing for in life is in the hard stuff. And if you, I think society these days seeks to find comfort and above all else, but it's no wonder that everybody feels lost and depressed and stuff because they've lost that meaning, which is found in doing the hard stuff, taking responsibility for people and things and taking care of it. And I think that it's more fulfilling than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
Just throwing yourself into it. So I encourage others to as well.
You just remind me of one thing. Accountability. One thing that children will throw in your face, and they don't even mean to half of the time, but it's a big thing.
Yeah.
But children are watching you constantly. So I know, like with my daughter, I mentioned earlier, we have a very like, hey, any subject, like I don't care what it is. If you need something, we can talk it through. And we've had some doozies, some very, very intense conversations, but they've been awesome. But one thing that I've I do really hold true to myself and for Monica is accountability. If I tell my kid I'm going to do something, my child is expecting me to follow through with this. So I need to bust my ass to do that. And if I'm not able to, I need to hold myself accountable because your kid will.
Yeah.
They'll do it a different way. But you need to hold yourself accountable and just be honest. Like if I drop the ball with my daughter, I have to have enough character to look her in the eye and tell her, hey, I'm sorry. I wasn't able to do this.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, as a dad, specifically as a dad, having to say, I was not able to do this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
But in the long run, I mean, that's one of those traits that your kids are going to associate with you. And hopefully as our children grow and become adults and, they meet people and whatever, my goal with that is that, Monica will take that kind of trait and be like, I need that trait in whoever I choose to spend, my life with.
Yeah.
They need to be able to have accountability. It goes hand in hand with your responsibility. They need to be able to do this. And if they're not able to, that it has an effect.
Yeah.
Everything's got consequences, folks. There's always a consequence. So
yeah, to say that another way, something I feel like I just learned from hearing you say that is that kids are always learning, even when you're not trying to teach them anything.
Yeah.
They're learning how you're acting. They're learning what you're doing or not doing, what you said you would do or what you didn't say you would do and you did. They're picking all that up and learning that's how a father should be. That's how a man should be. That's how all of these things, and that will stick with them for a very long time.
Man, it's crazy. So yeah, I mean, there's so much to constantly work on. And it's one of those things where I think a lot of people approach it with, oh, I only have to really worry about it for like 18 years, or I just have to, my kid's going to be perfect at this. My child won't ever do this. And I'm going to be this parent. Man, throw all that shit out the fucking window. It doesn't exist. The moment your kid arrives in the world, everything you said is gone.
Yeah.
Like everything pre-child that you were like, we're never doing this, gone. I remember telling people my child's never gonna like curse. We're just not going to allow it. Guess what my child does? She all the time. And I'm like, or no, it was vice versa. It was like, we're never ever going to curse around our daughter. Or no, sorry. We will curse around our daughter and we don't care. We really tried not to, because we kind of realized like it doesn't, something really switches. It's weird. These days it's kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
But like
It's changed some.
It changes so much, and we're not crazy. We try to like rein it in a little bit with ourselves and with Monica, our daughter, but you pick your battles, man.
Yeah.
Your battles.
Yeah, I haven't formed that many like plans of like I want to do this, I need to do that. I didn't read like any parenting books because I'm like,
good.
I'll figure it out. Like, I'll figure out what he needs, what we need, and I have like ideas and things of like they would be nice, but I don't. It's going to be whatever it is, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a very healthy way to approach it. I kind of wish I would have approached it that way at first, because I did approach it with like, my child will do this, my child will be like this, and I'm going to do this. And a lot of it came out of like a pointless rebellion to my own mom and dad. And the irony is my parenting style is very modeled after my mom, dad. And I've learned a ton from my brother, who I have also watched. But
I think there's a lot of expectation of like, oh, you should do this or you should do that. I tend to think about like, why should they not curse? Well, cursing on its own doesn't really matter, but it benefits them to know in what context or what situations it is acceptable. It's just language. You need to learn to communicate, teach them to communicate, and cursing, they can do that if it adds effect to the conversation or whatever. That's my little 3-month-old baby mind. Once I have a toddler,
no, dude,
saying, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. I'll say, okay, no cursing.
There might be a day they do it. You're going to have a tangent one day where you just like, you go on a giant F-bomb, like just spree.
Yeah.
And your kid's going to laugh and be walking around upstairs. Fuck, 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 fuck. And you're going to be like, oh no. But
yeah. And it's going to be the one day that the queen is coming to visit. And
right. No,
I can't have that.
Fatherhood is, I have never been more proud of anything in my life. And Jake, you know this 1,000%. You've seen me in some low moments, and it all revolves around the kid. It's crazy how much pressure children put on you, but it's not a bad thing. It's like the most healthy fear-inducing thing, I feel personally for me, because I think it's the perfect drive to excel and hit your actual potential. And I think it really shakes some people out there that they have a hard time processing that or dealing with it. But you got to work through it, man. Your kids are going to watch you when you don't think they're watching you. My daughter has told me like, oh, you always do this. And I'm like, whoa, when have you seen me do that? And she has literally, dude, she has like
a notebook. Well,
she has
December
told me
13th.
specific moments, specific conversations. I'll do something. And I'm like, oh, dang.
Let the record show.
All right. She'll catch me like, she'll say something that's, I'm like, oh my God, really? And she'll catch me do that. I'll think it's all in my head, but she'll catch me do it. Vice versa. I'll catch her do the same thing. Right. So we kind of have to laugh about that, but man, embrace, if you're a new parent, embrace it. If you're a parent like I am, where, experienced, but not completely, embrace it. If you're, my mom and dad are still very involved. They still want to be involved. And I think that's awesome. That's such a great trait. And if there's one all encompassing thing, fucking be involved.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all you can do is be there for them and
be involved, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, it's fun to be involved. You get to see a lot of cool stuff. You get to be silly, and I think this world needs. We need to be silly. We got to get.
It's a very silly place.
Yeah, and we need some humbling things in our world these days, and
Yeah.
I think we can learn a lot if we just let kids be kids.
Yeah, don't take it so seriously.
Like childhood should be full of knee scrapes, laughter, dirt,
Mhm.
and just shenanigans. Like let all that be.
Yeah,
I think we've gotten too uptight about a lot of stuff. Just let kids be, because I can guarantee you one thing: your kids are acting way different when they're with their friends than they do with you.
Yeah.
Guarantee it.
Yeah. And if you had to ask them, they probably would rather be having fun with their friends because they are freer then, I guess.
But yeah, I think there is a freedom to it. But man, I love this episode. I love prepping for this episode.
Yeah,
I knew there was going to be a lot said.
and a lot to catch up on. Being
A
gone
lot to
that
catch
long.
up on.
It's good to be back.
It's great to be back. I'm so stoked to be back. I'm so happy. Having a creative outlet is awesome.
Mhm.
Folks, I hope it wasn't too heavy of an episode for you guys. We just very passionate about this kind of stuff, so I know we've been gearing up for it.
Yep. Yeah, we appreciate you listening, and
Yeah.
we'll see you next time.
Hells yeah.
See ya.
See ya.